All right. All right, I would like to call to order the July 16th normal city council meeting of the city of Yahats. In attendance, we have Councilor Carey, Councilor Collins, Councilor Headland, Councilor Shaughnessy, Bobby Price, our city manager. Neil's running the show here, and myself, Craig Birdie, the mayor. All right, we have a very full agenda today, so I will be asking people to keep their comments to a minimum and might even have to cut some people off. As I know from personal experience, it's easy to get carried away and speaking too much. Uh, we start our meeting with announcements, proclamations, and correspondence. Did we have any announcements? We have no proclamations. We do have some correspondence that I will share. I'm not going to read them, but I have three pieces here. The first one is regarding the July 4th parade. A citizen was concerned about some of the language on a sign, especially in lieu of some attempted shooting in Texas. I just would suggest that everybody think very carefully about the language that you use on your signs in a community event like that. We also have correspondence from a citizen regarding fireworks. We have nothing on the formal agenda for that, but during the mayor's session, I am going to have some comments and a request for a work group that we form to discuss that at a future meeting, even though that is quite time bound. Firework planning starts now. And we also have a citizen concern regarding our budget that is an ongoing discussion with the city manager. So I printed that out. We can file these under correspondence. They're all, but I thought it might be useful to have them.
I also received correspondence that was just thanking the city of Yahas for being such a beautiful and welcoming location that a couple stumbled across during the holiday season, and they fell in love with the city.
Wonderful. Wonderful to get those kinds of that kind of course. Rare but appreciated. Yes.
Is my little report on the transportation committee, where does that fit in?
I think probably at the end for other business, but does that work? You're still awake? I'm still awake. All right. Well, thank you. Public comment. This is a comment for items that are not on the agenda. You are limited to 5 minutes of speaking. We ask that you address the chair, which would be myself, that you keep your comments to the issue at hand and not to personal attacks. But you're free to say what you need to say. Is there any public comment for items that are not on the agenda today? Any hands online? Seeing none, we will move forward to the consent agenda. As I have said many times, the consent, if you want to know what's going on in the city, read the consent agenda. It is probably the most concise source of information. City manager, can you want to give us any recaps or highlights of that?
Yeah, so you can see that we've got a lot going on, a couple work groups. The ADA restroom work group has been working diligently and has plans and with a local architect to get those streamlined and plans turned into the planning department. That should be happening fairly soon. I did authorize a work group to start in doing a full evaluation of a camera speed enforcement. It's something that's been talked about and we've been sharing a lot about the proactive measures we are taking. They still are very set on that being the method. So I've said, okay, then bring a full gamut of research. And so they will be working on that. The proposed water tank location has the road cleared up. So in the clearing locations underway right now, and the geotech engineer will be here on August 18th. And while they're here, they will be doing a few test sites that require significant drilling down into the land there. And they will also test the proposed site for an additional pickleball court, pavilion, and also proposed site here outside the Commons for proposed additions, just to see if that is right from the get-go, if that is even possible with the land below. So those will happen soon. In the agenda that is online now, it does include the July Public Works and Water Loss Report. I initially submitted one that hadn't been included yet, but those are on there now. And you will notice in the Public Works report that Rick McClung has provided some preliminary information on the Ocean View delineators. And some feedback I'd like from that is where we would like to go if we want to bring it back to an August meeting for public feedback, and also if there's any more direction on what to bring back exactly in that August meeting or future meeting if it isn't August. We do have a volunteer barbecue coming up on August 14th, and I want to make sure that anybody who contributes to the city, they are welcome and encouraged to attend. That will be behind the Commons on that day. And moving into our financial report, I wanted to mention that in August, we'll have a bit more of a clear picture of what we are bringing in for our transient lodging tax, as we do collect the final quarter for that ends June 30th. We collect that in the month of August. So when we see our August, or we'll have a soft close for our August meeting that will include all of those kind of trickling in expenses and revenues.
One thing it may have been in here, but I didn't see that I think we should publicize, is that we got the final report on the diesel fuel tank,
Yes.
and that was cleared, which was very good news, because remediation could have been extremely expensive had it been leaking. So
Thank you.
that was very good news.
Just
Maybe spelling error.
Okay.
In the street camera work group, I believe an extra P is missing in FIPS.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
speaking of missing Ps, the word preparations ended up to reparations.
Thanks for catching those.
The section.
And when talking about this speed camera, I wanted to clarify that we still are moving forward with the radar trailer,
Yes.
which creates a lot of that slowing down of traffic and collecting data. So it would be nice, the work group, when they're looking at the speed camera, to take in consideration all the speed reducing activities that's going on.
That's a really good point, Councilor Headland. I think that the work that we are doing is significant. It all takes time
Yes.
to get there, but we are really putting a lot of effort into traffic calming and speed reduction, and that camera being able to move around, having one, I mean, it's not a camera, excuse me, the radar sign being able to move around where we're seeing maybe influxes of speed is I think a great benefit versus having one set location. I think that the benefit of also having our deputy being able to utilize it for enforcement is a really important aspect to that as
Yes.
well. And later on in the agenda from the staff, I'll be sharing about the transportation growth management, and we'll have a resolution on the table for that grant that we're applying. And that grant will be to update our village circulation plan. And that will include sidewalks that are going, to extend them north and south, and plantings that could happen to kind of make you shrink it in a little bit, do a little bit of that What was the word? Yeah.
Mm.
Calming, traffic calming, excuse me, sorry. And those will all be parts of that plan. And that plan is really an important part to be able to apply for grants into the future to execute the work to be done. That's a very, very expensive project that can't be done just out of the city's pocket. And we have to do these planning pieces to get to that point. But those are all traffic calming measures that are, I believe, more impactful and go a long way more than a camera radar sign. So that's right. I think we're going in the right direction, but. Mhm.
This is probably out of order, but I get to call the rules. You asked for input on the delineator, delineator project. We got the numbers, and those are understandable versus simply painting it. I would like to consider some combination where there are some known, let's say, historical areas where people have parked and that they still want to seem to park. And if we could do some painting and then maybe just a few decorative bollards here and there to kind of help people feel safe still. And I think that that's been, the delineators clearly weren't going to stop anybody's vehicle, but I think the public has felt that that clear delineation, they felt a lot safer, and babies and strollers all kind of have enjoyed that. So could that be something that we could kind of add to the analysis?
To that.
Okay.
So can I just, for clarification really quick, for that combination, you're thinking a combination of paint and the curb or paint and some delineator barrier of?
Yeah, some,
Okay.
when we were looking earlier, there were some kind of decorative half circles.
Mhm.
Just, I don't know how much they cost, but just a select number of those here and there to remind drivers that this really is a pedestrian area without having to do every inch of it.
And I think that makes a lot more sense than the curb options that are here in the report, because those are just tripping hazards,
Yeah.
And-
6 or 10 inches even. So
And
I like
expensive.
the idea of having strategically placed.
Mhm. Mhm.
Councilor Carey.
Something that I've spoken with you about, is I still would like to investigate. Yeah, they would have to be narrow, but somehow narrow planters that we can put native grasses in or something that is pretty for the homeowners that live there. But it also gives a definite barrier
Mhm.
in terms of where cars would go and not go.
Yeah, we brought that up, I think, at the first time we talked about.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Then it might be a garbage collector.
well,
But
I
they have to
don't
be
like
garbage.
these curbs.
Oh, no, the curbs are not gonna work.
Okay. Enough direction?
I think so.
Okay.
So August, September, when would you like to see that?
I'd like to see it in August, but I'd settle for September. Somehow I had a paper. I'm sorry,
Something with that order?
what is it?
Well, since we were talking about traffic slowing measures,
Mhm.
I guess I was a little questioning and or wondering about the sheriff's report because what it said was, if I read it correctly, that in the month of June, when there presumably were 8 days of the sheriff being here, Thursdays and Fridays, if you just took the Thursday and Friday traffic stops, there were only 6. And I guess I have a problem with that because I think you can ask any resident or person walking down the street or even driving down the street that there's a lot more than that going on. So why aren't there more tickets? And even this morning, 6 cars, I was standing there deliberately right at the crosswalk.
Mhm.
with my two dogs, one was sitting, one was standing. And 6 cars zoomed past me without stopping, and car number 7 did stop. You know, there's some problems still here that I'm not sure we're fully addressing.
I'm not speaking for the sheriff on this, but my observation has been that, when she's here, things slow, and where she can park right now, it's slow. So they can see her where she can park, and so it does slow, and she has a threshold of what she can pull over for above the speed limit. So that will be the great benefit of this portable camera, because she can then kind of get a little bit more hidden, and I think that will increase the amount of pullover she's able to do. It's my observation. That I'm not speaking for her though.
I just
Mhm.
found that to be a.
Yeah. Yeah.
She did mention that she has to be in a certain angle,
Sure.
do certain things to pull over people. So even if she's seeing someone speeding, if she's not in the correct position, she can't pull them over, but that's what this radar trailer is going to help with. Is that she doesn't have to be in the perfect alignment.
But I've also heard citizens, express a great desire for more visibility of the sheriff in our 40-mile-an-hour areas.
And she addressed that last time,
Mhm.
and she can't.
Yeah, she can't do that without the radar trailer. Exactly.
Just wanting.
Well, yeah, I think it deserves an explanation for citizens, that we've talked about that, it's in our minutes, or in our tape, I guess, that she has addressed that. Okay, moving forward, any comments about, we've kind of jumped forward already, we've got the staff report, we've discussed the sheriff report. Any comments about summaries, either the councils or the commissions? Any comments about financial reports? Again, the graphs are extremely helpful. They really are. The funds, the consolidated report looks good. Assume, given that we need to finalize them and get our final transit rental payments done, those are obviously glaring in there. But other than that, everything looks good. They were over in some, under in some. I think it all balanced out.
I will note that we've added the kind of few year outlook graph in the transient revenue tax for this month, but we will also add that again next month, so you can see the full year-end picture. And we'll also add it for food and beverage, so it's
Okay.
a few years back. So we got that prepared for
Um,
when we really bring it all in.
Okay.
Mhm.
Those graphs are very helpful. We can see at a glance how we're doing year to date and compared to past years. So I really appreciate those. Okay. Any other comments on anything that's included in our consent agenda?
Other just questions.
Mhm.
There's a new sheriff taking over in August. Are we going to have the privilege of meeting that person?
So that is not confirmed yet. I do have a meeting tomorrow with the City of Walport and the Sheriff's Department, and we'll be discussing it's all within scheduling and how they're internally scheduling and how we get to how it all shakes down to, because I really do want to keep, regardless of who it is, the end of the week schedule, and I would be okay with any combination of Thursday through Saturday combination when we have more people driving through the community. So if that does happen, absolutely, we'll bring Sheriff, it would be Sheriff Brody, it would be the replacement, and we will make sure he comes in and meets with you all. And
Disadvantage to that is
Yeah.
that Sheriff Dorsey has built relationships with a lot of people, and so that would be one downside.
I firmly agree with that.
And I would hope there'd be some handoff,
Mhm.
some identification of people that need to be monitored, and what she has done in the past that's been successful.
Yeah. From my understanding, they have.
And just for technicality, that's sheriff deputy.
Barry, I saw your hand pop up.
I was I think my question is answered, but the Abby Dorsey's note about I'll be replaced in August, I couldn't tell whether that was for the month
Or, yeah.
ongoing. I take it now it's ongoing.
Mhm, mhm.
I think that's standard practice to rotate the deputies and
Mm.
really serve.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Well,
We're still in the consent agendas.
the council minutes,
Yes.
the very last line is in error. It says minutes prepared by Kimmy Jackson, but she wasn't at that meeting.
She did prepare the meeting minutes, though, from the recording. Yeah, from the recording.
Okay,
Wonders of modern science. Anything else? If not, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda for the July 16th meeting?
So
All those in favor say aye.
moved.
All right, thank you. Moving on, new business, Sharon Design. Thank you for driving up from Jacksonville. You are on. City manager, can you explain the intent here, please?
Yes. Well, today we are reaching the final phases of a long project that we embarked on with Sharon Design Studios. Several months ago, the both Parks and Commons Commission and City Council agreed to hire Sharon Design Studios to create a Greater Commons plan. And that plan is really a essential tool. It's bringing in so many different pieces of community input. They've had many community input sessions, both in person and via surveys, and sitting out in front of our post office and city hall and restaurants, taking in information, just really trying to reach voices that maybe don't come to every regular community engagement event, but they did a really great job of obtaining that public feedback. And we also had an advisory group that worked closely with Sharon Designs. And through those different avenues, they've been able to work towards creating this planning tool for our city to look long term and be able to have this strategy for when we're going through our projects and our capital improvement budgets, what we'll be able to save for, what we'll be able to write grants for. When we do go and identify a grant, the public input is usually a really important aspect of large grants. And we've got that tool right there with all of those pieces to say we've done this. And that's one of the things that I'm really excited for as to use this as. And I love that it is come to us in a really high level picture. So as things do change, there's still room to get more down to a granular level when we've decided to embark on any one project. And I love that we can continue working with Sharon Designs, and as the different projects we embark on, we can have them do more detailed design and architecture plans for us, or we can reach out to others that are more connected to the program, to the project. For example, we have the ADA restrooms, which are part of this master plan, but we're working with a local architect and working with a work group that's really getting down to the granular detail on that. And so it really is it's an open playbook for us to use. So with that, I'd like to introduce you guys to give an overview of that playbook.
Shelby, just for your information, I know that our council reads these things carefully. And so we don't need to go into, if we can keep it fairly high order, the audience may not have read it, but believe me, this council reads everything.
So I do have a lovely presentation, but I'll slide
Thank
through.
you.
And give us all an overview of what you all tasked us to do as part of this project and kind of where we ended up. So just launch in. So as you know, here's our project overview, the Greater Commons. And the things on the right are those things that we were tasked to do, you know, build a visionary plan, identify capital improvements that are needed to meet critical needs. What is the best utilization of space, and you know, what are the needed maintenance things moving forward? So we were just going to talk a little bit and then kind of have answer time for question and answers and just a little bit of discussion if you guys would like as well. As Bobby mentioned, we're planning on being here for a long time now that we're friends. Anyway, but here we are at the final plan. It's July. We started in November, came out and did a bunch of interviews with people. We had several, you know, public meetings. We did 2 online surveys. We had 5 meetings with our fantastic advisory group, who's been, you know, they've been really instrumental in guiding us when we weren't quite sure which direction to move. 3 public meetings to share different ideas with people. We went back and looked at all of the previous studies that have been done, which are innumerable, and kind of looking at those things and did a summary of all of those things, just in kind of teasing out which ideas kind of stick moving forward. So that was a little bit about our process. You know, we had voting ballots, and we had a lot of online interactions, one-on-one conversations. We did spend time out in the community for people who couldn't make it to the meetings, and we went out to post office and met some folks who just happened to be getting their mail. We were over at Drift Inn. I hung out in City Hall for a day just to meet people as they came and go, just to get more into soliciting feedback on different ideas. But we built this wonderful. Yeah, which all kind of comes down to, I'm moving through that really fast, see?
We're done.
But really what the essence of all of that understanding the background information is like, what makes this place special? And how do we integrate any improvements into Yachats without losing that special character that you already have? Right, you have an artistic community and a very involved community. There's a certain energy here, both within the Commons building and the Greater Commons. You know, people come here to recreate, commune, gather, love one another. It's just a really, really magical place. I'm preaching to the choir, you know, all these things. So I think our challenge was really like, how do we understand this place? Which I think we're kind of getting there now, but how do we make sure it works for everybody in a harmonious way? And how do we, you know, accommodate all the different needs within a way that we're not losing our wonderful sense of place that you have already? So early on, we came up with this vision, which is similar to, you know, the city vision. But we wanted the Greater Commons to be the heart of the community. It's accessible, community-oriented, functional, aesthetically pleasing, and reflects the unique culture of Yachats. We also came up with a list of goals. And so as people were coming to us with various ideas, we would kind of weigh it back on these goals. Well, you know, is that goal, does it make it accessible? Does it make it multi-generational? Are we welcoming to everybody? Are we being climate resilient? So this was kind of our framework to testing different ideas and making sure that we were staying true to the things that were really most important that we identified early on in it. So with that, here's our visionary plan. So the visionary plan is looking at a long-term idea for what the Greater Commons can be. So again, we're wanting it to be a hub of energy where all these different uses intermingle harmoniously. There's multiple uses happening within this space and multiple generations utilizing that space as a place to gather and be in a beautiful and aesthetically pleasing setting. So the Greater Plan looks at how we can accommodate all of these things, both meeting critical needs such as ADA accessibility. How do we make sure that there's enough room for community events? How do we make sure there's enough room for the children who use YFAP? And how do we accommodate those things? So what we looked at several different ideas throughout this process, but came up with a few ideas of like expanding buildings where needed, but also how do we improve that open space so that is also an enjoyable amenity. Just to walk you through here, see if you can see my hand. Oh, you can see my hand, okay. So one of the big things that I'm really loving is this idea that we would have a pedestrian corridor along La-di-da Lane. And that would be open to, you know, emergency vehicles, but basically closed to through traffic would be this nice place where you can, spill out the farmer's market and you have a nice place to gather and meet people. It connects the Commons building and the playground nicely. And then the upper part of Lottie Dell Lane, you can still keep that as parking. We identified that as, we need that parking, but also you could close that off for special events. And then that whole pedestrian corridor launches into a new network of paths through the open space. We looked at a few different ways of kind of configure the green space out here, but we reduced the amount of the lawn. It's still there. And you can still take your dog, but it's not an official dog park. But then that lawn is reduced with additional walking paths, pollinator gardens, bioswales along the edge of Lottie Dell Lane. And then overlooking that lawn is a new multi-purpose pavilion. And that is another community space that can be used for any kind of events. I mean, it came partly out of wanting an indoor pickleball space that wouldn't work inside the Commons building, but we're envisioning that this building could be used for numerous different kinds of events. So markets, art shows, concerts, like an ability to open up this wall on the south side and kind of spill out onto the lawn out there as well. So in addition to that, the plan also looks at opportunities for wayfinding and information, a place for people to gather or to learn information about Yachats and find their way throughout the campus. The City Hall, we're looking at expanding the north end of it here and actually relocating this room, the council chambers, into City Hall. As a way to consolidate all of the municipal uses. And then looking at an addition to the Commons building itself with a new entrance here on the northeast corner, as well as an addition for YFAP that would be secure and for their own use. And then having that whole space available for them, and then also increasing the availability of space for the community. I'm gonna hop to a fly through that we put together. And Jane's gonna talk about this, so you can listen to somebody else's voice.
Great. Yeah, so we really find that looking at things in 3 dimensions is great for communicating to people. It's also a wonderful design tool for us. So this is a 3D view, just kind of rotating around the main Commons Park and Commons area. You can see the addition that is kind of tagging a new YFAP entrance on the Commons building towards 4th Street. Now we're rotating around the wetlands. This is such a heart of the town in general, and we really just want to work to maintain what is already there and preserve that great wetlands and boardwalk area. Now we're flying over this new multi-use pavilion. Design is conceptual now, but the idea is that it would face the south towards the open lawn area and really tie in the corner. Benefit too is that it creates a nice view from Commons Park, might block some of the unsightly views that people have mentioned to the north. Rotating around, we're over 101 now, looking at City Council addition to the right side, the north side of City Hall. That just fits over where the drive-through is now. I don't know. Just a little quick.
That's fine.
Thanks, Jane. I'm back, okay. So the other things we presented for you, just a few stills from that video. Again, you can see that addition to the City Hall for the council chambers, imagining that might have its own separate entrance and exit as well for the public to come and go out of there. Also looking at closing that road behind City Hall and turning that into a pedestrian area between the skate park and City Hall. Just kind of greening that up and creating this, giving the skate park a little bit more room to be a social gathering area, particularly for young folks. as well as looking at a new accessible entrance and kind of an entry vestibule into the Commons building itself here. Another still just looking at the lawn and the multi-purpose pavilion. You can see these trails, pollinator garden in here, that open lawn. As Jane mentioned, we don't really see any reason to kind of interfere with the existing wetland or the spruce forest. So we're just gonna recommend that you just kind of keep that intact because it's working just beautifully. And then you can also see this little fire circle back here behind the pavilion for special events like on the solstice, for example. One of the things that we're provided in the report is just a couple of diagrams breaking out different elements. So you can see the new paths that we're proposing in here in orange, and in this blue bit here is that pedestrian area. And then the other thing I didn't mention is having a bicycle connection or multi-use path connection along 6th Street. That's predominantly for both access as well as for safety reasons, evacuation. Having that clear getaway from Ocean View Drive along 6th Street to higher ground is important. Diagram for parks and open space, you can see our lawn, pollinator garden, kind of here in the pinky pink is a bioswale, and that the idea being that runoff comes off of the parking areas and gets filtered before it runs into the wetlands, just kind of an additional sustainability measure to protect your natural spaces. And then we also are including a few ideas for wayfinding. And I think this could be a nice, it obviously needs another frame of study, but I think it's an opportunity for the city to incorporate some local artists, have like a little icon or something like that, a way for people to easily identify, where they are in town and how to get to the next point, kind of pulling you through the city. So that could be something that you look at in a future project, but I have a few ideas here for you to get that jump started. And then buildings, I'm gonna let Chris speak to buildings because he's the architect.
Thank you, Shelby.
Yes.
Again, just to reiterate here, I think prioritizing sense of entry and clearly defined entry points at the Greater Commons building, both for the community, looking at accessibility and where those kind of predominant points of entry occur, both on the northeast, and then also for YFAB here on the south, secure vestibule entrance for families, students, and staff. The pavilion, we're recommending to remain and undergo structural improvements so that it can be returned to community use. And again, accessible use there as well. The northern expansion on City Hall for the council chambers, clearly defining 2 points of entry and exit for that council chambers separate from the actual City Hall. So you're not having traffic kind of interface or require additional demands from city staff. And then the new multi-use pavilion, as mentioned, really a very flexible kind of dynamic structure, which can allow for multiple uses that we feel the community really was asking for in a lot of ways throughout the process. We explored a couple different paint schemes here and provided some Pantone colors. One was inspired by the California Brown Pelican, obviously not just shades of brown, but that's a bold palette, if you will, with the kind of blue and the orange reds in there. And then another scheme, just looking more along the lines of kind of the coastal lighthouse palette, different tones of whites and grays. Looking closer here at City Hall, again, this is the new proposed council chambers, building off that drive-through gable face. This would be a relatively simple addition, maintaining the same structure and roof slope of the existing building. And then again, allowing for that vestibule entrance for the council chambers, and then an additional exit, while also proposing kind of a framework for greater efficiency there in terms of City Hall operations on the interior. And then here looking at the Commons building and the proposed addition to the west for the secure entrance and YFAP expansion, creating a clearly delineated function and use for both kind of civic use of the Commons building itself and enlarging the operable space for community resources there at the Commons building, extending that multi-purpose room back into the existing kitchen space, opening up that venue, performing upgrades there for the venue in terms of sound, an expansion here of a green room space slash mini room, kind of a multi-use space. The accessible restroom design, which is underway currently right now, the future accessible entrance vestibule here. And then looking at kind of this 3 classroom addition for YFAP, the secure entrance vestibule at street level on the south. And then a extended basement plan here, adding a multi-purpose room, small kitchen, and then continuing the use of the Friends of Library here. And then we were also proposing kind of a flexible maker space, if you will, as an additional use of that square footage. The community pavilion, again, this is a vision. I mean, what we were really hoping to provide here with this comprehensive plan, with a platform that would allow the greater community to really have agency to determine which aspects of this plan best serve the community at different times, and procuring funding, providing community support for these spaces, and just trying to really provide as much redundancy and diversity as possible with use of these structures. So what we're showing here is the opportunity for 2 interior pickleball courts as needed, restrooms. This obviously could be a wonderful flex space for markets, for community events, venues for your cultural festivals, and also a open band shell servicing the greater Commons area. These are all intended to be roll-up doors here. And then this kind of extended awning, if you will, providing coverage for that stage space. In terms of phasing, we didn't seek to directly ascribe a timeline of implementation, if you will. However, we are looking at the prioritization here in terms of stage 1, including ADA compliant restrooms in Commons building. There's obviously available grant funding on that, and that project is already underway. The Commons building expansion, seeing that as a stage 1 priority as well, and the La-di-da Lane pedestrian zone. Stage 2, looking at the new pavilion and the multi-purpose room expansion. And then stage 3, the City Hall expansion, green space updates, and sustainability features. We did coordinate with Construction Focus, a cost estimation firm out of Eugene, for some high-level numbers on this plan. We felt like it's very important that you have a framework within which to make these decisions as a community. And although numbers can be frightening, we feel like they're very important here in terms of the decisions that you're making. And I do want to preface the review of the estimate in saying that these are very conservative numbers. We did not provide detailed construction plans for these improvements. They're looking at general square footage takeoffs as they're procuring this cost, and they're looking at current market conditions and potential escalation as we move forward into a very unknown territory right now. So overall, that Commons building expansion generally was at just under 4.2 million for the entirety of that Commons building work. The City Hall expansion and site work at 1.2 million. The La-di-da pedestrian lane improvements, 715,000. Multi-purpose room expansion, 1.7 million, and then the new pavilion at 2.8. The general green space updates, the pollinator gardens, the parklets, the pathways, 464,000, and then the signage, wayfinding, and public art, 21,000.
Yeah, so in addition then to the cost estimate, we also provided you with just a pretty preliminary maintenance budget, and that just has some high ticket items like re-roofing, painting, replacing the boardwalk, replacing the play equipment in the playground, things like that that you're gonna have to think about in the next 15 to 20 years. So we provided an estimate for thinking about those things as well in this plan. We can dive into this more if you guys wanna come back to this and talk budget. So I think just in conclusion, first off, I want to thank you all for the opportunity and trust in us throughout this project, and also express my gratitude to Bobby and Rice and the advisory group who've been incredibly helpful, as well as all community members who showed up and talked to us and left comments. It's been a really wonderful experience. So what we're delivering for you as part of this project is the plan that you saw, that I'm sure you all reviewed. So it has, our cost estimate, the visionary, look, a summary of all of the public comments and, summary of past studies and all of these things. And what this comprehensive document is really intended to help you plan, over the next 20, 25 years, and kind of identify, from here, what are our priorities and what can we, but now you have a document that you can actually go after, like Bobby mentioned, you can go after grants with this. You can show this to people and go, see, we have a plan. So yeah, give us some money to help us out. So I think from here, you have a platform from which you can make future decisions, and we're happy to help you if you ever need help or have additional questions. It's been really great working with all of you. So that's that.
So when are you moving here?
Chris and I were talking about this last year. I was like, I'll retire.
We're talking about more second homes.
Add, so you guys have provided a really great product and cost estimates and things like that, and this is high level, but as we're moving forward, if we're like, gosh, we really, really want to move forward with Project X, that cost estimate was a little higher than we're comfortable with. What if we could still go forward with that, but give a tighter parameter? Is that something that you see as possible?
Oh, absolutely. Chris can probably speak better to buildings than I can,
Mhm.
but a lot of that comes down to, design that's yet to be done. So, we had this idea from, Osprey level looking down there at the site, and you're like, oh, well, what if I did this? But you could, choose a less expensive material. Maybe you don't do the full thing. Maybe you kind of work it out. So I think in that design process, moving forward for the next each individual project, there's options within options here to kind of narrow that down to a budget that works for you.
Thank you.
I have a question. First of all, the methodology used to collect information is really impressive, especially going to the post office, which really is the hub of this city. So I really am impressed. But what I'm wondering, and the plan looks amazing, what are the concerns you got from citizens? I mean, whenever you do a big project like this, you want to go into it knowing, even if we're going to do it, what are the concerns people had that I think as a council we need to be aware of?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There were several, but I think a lot of overlapping things. I think there were some concerns about I need to go down this road, but here we go. The White House thing, for example.
Right.
Like there was a lot of people who just kind of wanted to punt them
Right.
off campus. And then, but as a group, we discussed this. I'm like, well, if we kind of figure out how that could work within this space, and there are all sorts of reasons. So that was one thing that kept coming up again and again. But then there were a lot of things that kind of meshed. Like a lot of people were really happy having additional walking paths and having better wayfinding. So there were a lot of commonalities in there. But concerns, I think there was a lot of concern about having enough community space for all the different activities. I'd say that was something that I heard of. Again, do you want to add on to that, Chris?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think there's a real sensitivity to additional built structures. And that was something that was brought up many times. Do we really want to look at a new structure? But then there were kind of the benefits there of recreational uses. And those don't just appear out of thin air, right? And so I think trying to find as many opportunities there for, again, I said sort of redundancy. I'm gonna also say resiliency. I think these buildings can function in many different ways. The existing pavilion, I know in front of our advisory committee last time we spoke about that, and it was brought up, is the $285,000 price tag appropriate for the structural retrofit of that structure? And I said, absolutely. You cannot build a structure like that for $285,000 right now. There's just, you cannot make that happen. And so the economy is one aspect of that, and also the opportunity to use that in a variety of ways. You know, that can be used as obviously a community space. It can be probably adapted with your structural engineers to possibly use that as an interim pickleball court. It won't have the height clearances they would probably prefer, but we could clear some of those interior columns. Working with that structural engineer, you could look at getting some shear out to those walls. You won't have the full 360-degree transparency. And it could also function as a outdoor classroom support for YFAP, or it could be a staging ground for community emergencies, any number of things. I mean, roof space is very valuable. So I know there is let's not lose our sense of openness there, but how can we maybe embrace it more and create parameters around that can help support the community from a functional perspective as well?
Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, I just really appreciate all the work that went into it and how much collaboration there was. And I think this is going to be a great document as we move forward, and I'm excited to see what comes of it. Yeah. We get to test it out this fall with our first grant application.
And I would I'll second that. The thoroughness is really appreciated. Having that kind of historical document that is more comprehensive than anything else we've had is really appreciated. I think just in general, it gives us the ability, when there's always good ideas, and there's lots of good ideas, but once we have a plan, we can say, well, how does that fit into the plan? So that would be one thing. I did have some questions, some of them more technical. I really liked the connection from Ocean View through 6th Street. I think that's a really underutilized area. When you do that kind of thing, do you sort of think about, there's a 15-foot hard packed storm sewer underneath here? I mean, do those sort of real world considerations fall into that?
Yeah. All of that, so I think
Okay.
it would be an undertaking to get that, because you would have to build some kind of a boardwalk / bridge thing to get over that section through there. So yeah, it is going to be a tricky process, but it's not.
Yeah, I really liked the idea. To tie, I think that kind of cut through is really helpful. Probably a question for Chris. When I looked at, it was unclear to me when I looked at the YFAP space specifically, is there additional excavation there?
Yes, absolutely.
If there was a basement added.
Yes, there would absolutely be some very intentional excavation, water management that would be required, accessibility studies that would need to be undertaken to provide entry points to that basement level. And, it would very likely result, we looked at some of the kind of bird's eye view, if you will, at what those spaces would start to look like without getting too far into the analysis and civil engineering that would be required there.
Okay.
I think a lot of that will be informed as well by the geotech analysis that the city's going to be undertaking. That's a great first step, right?
Yeah.
And but you're absolutely correct. Those subterranean kind of entry points are very important to understand and realize how they impacted design.
The next question is really specific, but I noticed it's on page 56. There's a number for the ADA bathrooms in the Commons. That was $660,000. And I didn't know how that got so big, I guess.
Yeah, you're seeing a number there. I think that they, in that spreadsheet that was provided by construction.
Yeah.
They described, and you'll see that it's a sliding scale for that cost per unit, which is basically a square foot cost. And for that one in particular, they have a very high number, that $893 a square foot for interior work,
Okay.
specifically related to restrooms. And again, that seems very high, but this is a very conservative estimate. This doesn't take into account the finishes of those restrooms. Are they gonna be full tile? Are they gonna be a conventional kind of FRP surfacing? What the flooring is gonna look like. Restrooms and kitchens are the highest price point for renovation.
Yes.
Specifically, renovations cost much more than new construction. So that, again, I know I didn't want anyone to be afraid of these numbers, but it's better to have a high number and come in under than it is to have a low number and then come back and say, you told us we could do X amount of work for this much money. Why are we stuck in this situation? So again, our cost estimator, I think, really has some of that contingency baked into these numbers, if you will. So I think what you're really seeing there is probably close to a 10% contingency in that number.
Yeah. Well, what did it involve? I mean, renovation of the restrooms in the Commons building. Was that these restrooms, or was that the new ones that were already planning?
That's on the north side of the building.
Yeah.
So those are the accessible restrooms there, as well as the green room
We're looking at 40,000 or something.
right now
Mhm,
for construction costs.
Yeah.
We also did not provide the cost estimators with existing conditions of
Mm.
the building, so
Okay.
they're working with something very unknown.
They don't know where the plumbing is, or, yeah. Okay. That's helpful.
And that's wonderful. You're at $40,000. That's where we want to see your numbers come in.
Yeah.
I have a question, and I don't know if this is something that's down the road because this is just visionary, but on page 49, when you show the city hall building with the new chambers. One, I forget what S means, and two, there's no restroom in city council chambers.
That's correct. Yep.
I don't think we can do meetings this long without a restroom.
They'll have to have a door into
There's
the
a door
other.
into City Hall. There should be a door into City.
But I thought we were trying to keep it separate.
We are trying to keep it separate, and I think that's a valid concern that S currently is storage. So
It's better door.
yes, is for additional storage there. You can see our limitations in space. And again, this is a platform for departure, right?
Okay, that's
So-
what I was like,
so-
maybe down the road, but I just.
Yes,
I
and
noticed
I
that right away as soon as I saw the picture of
And
it.
I think that would really be a prioritization conversation to have with your design group as you embark on that journey, right?
Well, plus our guests, they're not gonna all wanna traipse, or no, City Hall's not gonna want them all to traipse through.
No. And so maybe that's kind of the right sizing of that council chambers in relationship to what can be provided there for restrooms.
I also had a question around the sequencing. It seems to me that if I'm understanding the sequencing correctly, that sort of some of the la-di-da work was further down the road, but doesn't it make sense to start, if we have a vision and we know where we're going, to start putting some trees and plants and shrubs in sooner rather than later, moving that up as a priority?
Yeah, we looked at one point, I think, in terms of north and south Lottie Lane and perhaps prioritizing one aspect of that. I believe we were looking at prioritizing the southern component of that Lottie Lane improvement preliminary,
Mhm.
and then being able to kind of phase that or stage it. Is that
Yeah, it also, I mean, there's nothing holding you back from, I think one thing I didn't point out were, these big trees that we've plopped along the north end property line to kind of screen the physical plant. But there's no reason why you couldn't have that as a planting, volunteer tree planting operation, this fall or something.
There's 3 in there already. It's,
You said a great visionary concept plan, but I will say, I think that further schematic design might be necessary. to explore this area so that you are sequencing it correctly per stage. Because construction activity really different.
Okay,
Well,
okay, good point.
Good point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My only other, it's a comment, is we had that, showed the picture of the wind generator. I did really like the idea of, collecting water, but, I think just as a council, we should keep a close eye on our friends at Depot Bay who are experimenting with the hydrogen generator.
There's also ones that don't spin, so they can't harm.
Yeah,
birds.
I understand that,
Right.
but I'm just, hydrogen generators have some real advantages. They're not weather dependent at all. Once they're set up and we have a community that is, north of here that is going full force into hydrogen generators, generating the hydrogen from solar and then storing it. The question is, will they get enough electricity out of their generators? And they're sizing it, doing the engineering drawings right now, so
So sharing that.
Yes.
should look at that. They did that with the same $100,000 energy grant we had, they have, and they're exploring, they're designing it for hydrogen. And they're going for the $1 million grant to get it implemented. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's watch what happens there. Okay, any other questions or comments? This was masterful and I really appreciate it. And then we have a vote, is that correct? To accept this. I need to back off a little bit,
To formally adopt.
formally adopt.
I guess I just have to say, I don't know how you.
Well,
Well, it's not, I don't think it's gonna be all implemented at once, and it only gets implemented as we get money for it. Right, as each step goes on.
as we get funding.
Yeah.
It's a big lift. There's no question that it's a big lift and, but you know, it starts with a vision. Right now, we're in a position where somebody comes up to us and says, you need to do this. We want to have this. This isn't working. And we get counter opinions. Once we have a vision, we can start asking, okay, this is what we've laid out. This is what our vision is. How do you suggest we do fund it? Rather than saying, oh yeah, we're going to do that. And just go willy-nilly in one direction versus another. And it is a 25-year plan. It's not a 10-year plan. It's a 25-year plan.
We're not gonna build up any reserves right now with all the.
Well, these are issues that we need to wrestle within the finance committee. So
And there's nothing that we're bound
that's correct.
to do any of this, except for have good memories of these folks being. I mean, literally, yeah.
I think it's fair to say that the adopting this plan does not constitute a commitment to any particular feature of it or to do anything at all if funding is not found. So I mean, you know, it's definitely aspirational, but it's so well thought out
It is.
that it's a worthwhile aspiration.
That is a good way of putting it, actually.
Mhm. Okay. Can I get a motion to adopt the plan, understanding that this is a master plan, not a commitment?
So moved.
Councilor Carey, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 And the mayor votes yes. So thank you. We have accepted this plan.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
This is the end of our relationship. You know, hire them to do work.
All right. Next order of business is the Bird City designation presentation. And again, you know, this is a very long day for us, so let's keep this as concise as possible. We have the information and we have all read and studied it.
Hey, I'm gonna have some good news for everybody. This is not gonna cost
You
you
need to
anything.
give us your name and
Oh, yeah.
if you are a resident of the city.
Thank you. I'm Jim Welch. I'm environmental activist here in town and a birder. I got my start in this town. I started a group called Flippy Swallow Flight of the Yachts. We have over 400 bird houses in our Lincoln County. The other day, and I'm also on the board of the Bird Alliance or Seven Capes Bird Alliance, which is our local Audubon chapter. But it came around that Bird City had this program to certify towns to help that do special things to help wildlife, in particular birds. And Catherine, I got hooked in with Catherine here, and we submitted. We met with the director of this effort, and we have our application ready to go. So I'd like to just give you just a few brief reasons why this will be good for the city, and then we can get your approval for it. So Bird City is modeled after Tree City. If you've ever, particularly in the Midwest, gone around, you will see these signs on the entrance to towns. This is a Wisconsin Tree City. That program is very extensive. This program regarding birds will be not as extensive, meaning there may be only 20, 15 communities in Oregon that will be certified. And in order to meet the criteria for this program, we needed to set up a steering committee and find an umbrella organization. And our steering committee consists of 7 members that across the extent of the of groups here, everything from View the Future to Swifty to Bird Alliance of Oregon, Chamber of Commerce, Parks and Commons, Public Works representatives. And the important umbrella organization is the Lions Club. And they will, we have secured the funding for the first year. And that's from some money from Swifty. There will be $1,000 grant that we will receive. And as at the project start, and we will, any future relationship will be through requests through to the chamber and the city. The benefits are two. The first one is tourism, and these dollar numbers are pretty astounding. But if you look at outdoor recreation economy in Oregon, it's estimated between $8 and $16 billion. And this 1 out of every dollars, I found this interesting, was came out of Lincoln County. So and then if you break out outdoor rec and you add what component is wildlife viewing, that's also a big number. It's probably well over $1 billion a year in Oregon. So by having this designation, which will allow us to put a sign up that says Bird City, will allow us to do marketing around our being the initial, will be one of the initial certified bird cities in Oregon. Will also be the first on the Pacific Ocean. And we will be able to have a very strong reach to bring tourism here. And one thing that's important to note is that people like me, conservationists and nature lovers, will seek out towns with this designation. The last part of the benefit to Yachats is as part of the requirements for this certification, we have to do a yearly review. We have to continue to show the different things that we're going to accomplish during the year to help birds, but to help wildlife and the whole environment here. And a couple of them stand out, I'll tell you about, that we'll be working on in the coming year. One is dark skies. We do see a lot of light pollution that we shouldn't have under our code. And I think, and for those of you who aren't birders, light at night from cities disorient birds. And so that's the bird connection. There's been a movement with myself and with the help of Linda as a trip in. A lot of the workers in the restaurant, in our restaurants, have been feeding the crows and sometimes feeding seagulls. And to Linda and my effort, we've been able to start to bring that down under control. But it's a big health issue now with avian flu. So when you're out there, I appreciate you keeping an eye out. And people don't want to have birds on their cooping on their picnic tables. And the other thing, it's not healthy for the bird. You know, imagine if the bird is living on white bread. I mean, that's basically what they're throwing out trash food for. So that's an area that I wanted to mention to you. And the last is the Lions Club is been a big, as one of their focus points is the environment. And their major focus is helping youth. And this year, 50 did 2 projects involving youth, building birdhouses, and one was with 4-H and one with special needs kids in Newport High. And I think we all in the environmental community want to do work as much as we can with youth. And so I think that's an area where you'll see some activity in our committee. Beyond that, as I mentioned, this will create revenue so we can pay for that wonderful project. And to plan it out, Craig, it will put a feather in the cap of this city. Thank you very much.
So, thank you, Jim. And looking at all this, but can we get a really quick synopsis of what the city's obligation is?
Yes.
Both in terms of staff time and dollars.
No staff time obligation. If there is need, we will make the request through the channels like Bobby. But the obligation is really to embrace it and pass. There's a resolution that needs to be approved. And I think that we're just in a really fortunate position because the reason it's so easy for us to get the designation is that so many people in this community have done a lot for the wildlife here. And it's everything from the weeding that goes on to preserving land, and so it was a pretty easy call for Catherine and I to decide to pursue it.
All right.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Move things along. There is a sample resolution, but it's not specific and not in our form. What I'd suggest is that we get we approve this in principle and we get the resolution formatted, ready to go at the start of our next meeting. Does that meet your needs?
Yeah, during the proclamation section, you
Yes.
can do a formal proclamation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just to be really clear, so that if we're doing any votes, just to mention, as Jim has, that we've only had one meeting, but I was part of that one meeting, so just to be clear, and I personally don't benefit from it at all, and in terms of voting, so if
Yeah.
No, didn't I
There's no-
promise you a free bird?
Okay, so is there agreement in the council to that we would support this
Yeah.
to the extent necessary without overcommitting funds that are all for the and yes, yeah. So if that's the case, if there's no concerns or further comment, I think we'll just leave it at that so that we can vote on it next time with the proclamation. We need to have a proclamation. Okay, I think that was one of the obligations that the city had to do in order to make this work.
Hmm.
Okay, so that will be on the next agenda. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, next order of business is Little Log Church Museum. Has some things to bring us up to date on plans for the interior of the church museum. Is that correct?
Oh, they're all looking at each other.
Indigenous work design first or the?
Let's start with the design first and then the indigenous exhibit.
We require people to introduce themselves and just tell us if you're a resident of the city of Young.
This is David Chamberlain. I'm an architect. I've been a resident for 40 years.
And I'm Carl Christensen, a resident here in Yelp.
And I'll give a little introduction to the.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm director of the Little Log Church Museum.
So today, this presentation is being brought to us in kind of combination aspect. We've done a lot of previous conversations regarding the kind of the exterior rehabilitation of the building, and now we're looking to the what the interior part of that will end up being, and what some of the final exhibits will end up being, what that will look like. So we kind of have a short 2.2-part presentation here, just to get the full aspect. So what Dave and Carl will review are the more the layout of the interior design and which direction we'll be going with that, and how the city and Friends Group will be working together to execute that plan, along with our top to bottom construction crew that's already on site. And then following them, Drew Caldwell will come up and speak about the work that he and Joanne, is Joanne here? Joanne, yeah, there she is, have been working together with Be the Future and the tribes to put together a really wonderful indigenous exhibit for that as we get it back online and opening. Take it away.
we need to take a few minutes.
There we go. I'm gonna do it really quickly because I'm busy today. Carl's gonna speak up whenever he needs to. This is just to get oriented. We're gonna look at some two-dimensional things and then we'll go into a three-dimensional model to better visualize it. Just to get oriented, this is the Little Log Church. It's on the corner of Pontiac and 3rd Street. This is a plan of the existing building. We're talking about the addition to the chapel area. If you can see my arrow, you can. This is the entrance to the museum area. This is the entrance that goes into the chapel. So this is the existing building. We have a main room with an alcove in it. We have an entry hall, a storage room, and a water closet. Looking at this in the model form, looking at the floor plan there. Perspective. A little bit of difference there. Then we're gonna look at the south wall, which is this wall here from the inside. This is existing. We have the 4 large windows and the alcove on the right. On the north wall, the same room. We have the archway here that goes to the entry door. There's an existing door here now to a hallway which leads towards the chapel. Back here is the storage room. Here's the alcove that's existing. We're going to make a proposal that these are the changes we're talking about. The entry door will still be here. We're going to remove that door, which goes to the hallway here, move it down to the end of the hall. It has a nice stained glass window in it. The water closet will remain the same. We will use the hallway as an indigenous display area. The storage room will become an archive and an office, which will house the electronic equipment, which can control the Carillon. It's now housed in that, what was an alcove here, which we're going to remove. We're talking about opening a hole in the wall here to integrate the history of the city with the indigenous hall so that you can see through it. It can also be used as a display area. We're talking about putting 2 tables in the middle of the room, which would be glass top display areas with storage below. 2 large display cabinets over here. There's an existing cabinet here, and we're going to create a. Sorry, I turned that off. Existing cabinet here. There's a smaller existing cabinet in this area, which we're going to duplicate this one on that side and put in some more cabinet work here. It'll be more visible when we get into the model. Looking at that same area in plan in the model form. Once again, we've removed that alcove that was here. This is the main entrance. This is the indigenous hall. This will be the new office archive space. There will be access to the chapel through this hallway. Restroom there. A little more perspective on this. You can see the display tables in the middle, the larger cabinets here. Give you a second perspective, turning in both ways. When I was working with Carl on this, I did not have a list of the exhibits that were available, so I've tried to provide different types of display areas, from large cabinets to table displays, to the possibility of having a mannequin with clothes on it and so forth. We're talking about putting a flat screen TV on this wall with a repetitive looped history with pictures and so forth on it. The walls that you're going to see in this model, the paintings, the drawings and so forth you're going to see in this model are very repetitive because I didn't know exactly what we're working with, so I just did representative pieces there. We're now going to look at what you would see as you came in the front door. More or less, you're looking straight ahead down the indigenous hallway. This would be the main display room to the left. This would be the hallway to your right with display cabinets. I believe one of them was for tools.
Yes,
And one of them was for what? Church memorabilia?
church memorabilia,
Yes. And we had other cabinet space. We had an old sewing machine and so forth. So there's a place for that. That's the door to the restroom. We're adding a door on the end of that hallway to a future patio so that can be opened up and used for egress. I'm now going to look at.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
I might add that this doorway, it's in the future. This wall is going to be used, as you'll learn later, by the indigenous exhibit until we have the funds to create the outdoor patio. So this doorway will come later.
This next view is going to be of the south wall, which is this wall of this main room. Excuse me. Pointing to the north wall. This is the south wall. So you've got the 2 existing windows there with a large cabinet space for things that can go on shelving and so forth. You've got the low tables with the glass tops for things that are more easily seen from above and storage below. The video screen over here. We have a cabinet space over here with a seating for a docent and space to store materials if they're going to be selling some historical references and so forth there, or guides, and also a book to register the people that want to come in there. We're going to look back at the east side now, back toward the front door. And we're looking at the big cabinet there, the table, the windows. This is the docent's desk and display area for sales and so forth. Existing cabinet in the hallway. This is the entry door. Okay, now this is looking to the north side that I said earlier, pointed to, of the main room. We're talking about cutting an opening in this wall and putting a display case from front to back, about 14 inches in depth. That can be sort of transition area from one history to the other. Beyond it, seen here where the arrows are, is the indigenous hallway. We're gonna see that next. Straight ahead, looking at that north wall, we're gonna have hanging space for various displays for the indigenous people. Maybe you wanna address that differently?
Well, Drew and Joanna are going to address that.
Okay, this is that door to the patio, which you said is the future door.
Yes.
This is the door to the archive storage area. I got, we can turn around, look back toward the main room again. And you'll see the archway that goes into the main room. You'll see the display that is cut into the wall there. And here you're looking through the archway at the main area there too. This is the entry door. More shot here for you. This will be the archive office area. We're talking about putting storage cabinets in there, a working desk, the controls for the display outside and probably for the Carillon. The electronic equipment would be in here to be addressed. There's possibility for flat files here for large maps or artwork for storage.
It's basically an archival room.
So, any questions?
I have a question. I have a vague memory, maybe from earlier this year or last year, that the Little Log Museum is also going to be possibly used as a rental space or an event space. And I don't see how that would work in here. And I was just, I guess, get clarification on this vague memory I have.
I think that was,
It was not part of my criteria.
no, I think that was the chap,
Oh, okay,
the church part.
yes.
Is the chapel staying the same as it was? I only saw it through the windows before. I've never been in there.
So it's going to be exactly as it was. That was the criteria.
Okay, so that would be the part that would be, okay.
Mhm. Is it, my question would be, is that small room enough for your archives? Already.
Well, that's what we have.
Well,
There again, our goal is to create a new room adjacent to that room. But there again, that's phase 3.
okay, and you can, I assume you can find storage, but it may not be appropriate for kind of older documents.
That's always been a huge issue.
We try to get some more storage under the display table, so they're in the middle there.
Mhm.
There's drawer capacity.
Yes, it can be really effective, to really fun to pull them out and see what else is in there.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Is there gonna be, I mean, when you're talking about the old documents, I don't know if air conditioning is good for them or bad for them, but are there environmental pieces that you guys have had to plan for to make documents and things last longer?
It will have to be done, yes. And that's a very good point. I have to write that down.
So that is, so how is it heated or cooled now?
It's not cooled, it's heated by forced air, well, not forced air, but
Has little heaters on the floor.
yes.
Okay, I see. So at some point you might want to think about.
Yes.
Moisture control.
Yeah,
So, objective at this point was to do the necessary things that have to be done and then address some of these issues at a later point. I mean,
Mhm.
kind of like the presentation we just saw.
yeah. And that's fine. And is there, who's funding any of these changes?
The Friends of the Little Log Church and the city. But first of all, this is the city, but this particular part so far is being funded by the Friends of the.
Yeah, that was
Little
my
Log
question.
Church
Okay.
Museum, and we're hoping for grants
Yes.
to assist us.
Yeah, there's a fair number of grants available for rural museums that I was just reading about, so.
And we're not requesting large sums of money. The Friends have reserved certain funds for this project. We learned that the cabinets perhaps were gonna cost $60,000, but there again, I think we can do better.
I think
that.
that,
Yeah, okay. Some good carpenters in town.
Yeah. So we're always open to donations.
Okay, well, this is exciting. Any time frame for it?
We were talking about February, weren't we, Ozzy?
Mhm, mhm.
Shortly after the,
Did you have a chance to talk, or is this appropriate time to talk with top to bottom about doing the?
Yeah, we received a bid.
Oh, you did receive a
Mhm,
bid.
mhm. Neil, do you want to talk to him about that a little bit?
Yeah, it was just under 26,000. That didn't include everything that's being displayed here, but
Just the actual, see, that's a wonderful bid.
yeah, and it's less than 10% of the contract that we've already signed with them, so in theory, we don't have to go out to bid again just because we can do
I
a
just want
contract
to say,
adjustment for it.
they have been extraordinary construction.
yeah, great problem solving. So it was not an easy project.
A very interesting project to watch.
Okay, well, thank you. This was very informative. Oh, and then Drew and Joanne were going to speak about what the exhibits are going to be. And again, after this, we're going to take a break. So just be aware that.
Hey, Drew and Joanne, I have
Yeah.
your presentation up here. So if you could just tell me when to switch through slides, I'm happy to do so.
Basically, in the future, and this is I adore this woman. He said, I worked with Joanne on I'm Drew Caldwell, living in Hans, volunteer. Had wanted to do some updates, and the museum was interested in Indigenous history, the tie-over meeting out. So just real quickly, look at the next one. Slide there.
Oops.
We were at the beginning, we were just showing this little blueprint thing. It's when they come in straight ahead, take some measurements and see what we can put together to respectfully include the native history side of where we live today in Yachats. And so you see that first hallway, when you look straight down, we wanted the end panel to be, by the way, the design here is basically for cost effectiveness, to have 6 foot by 3 foot printed panels just hung up on the wall with good lighting. And then the design work was mainly kind of a pyramid structure between online and in person. So for example, I'll show you a slide. Actually, you can just flip to the next one. In the welcome slide, for example, if you go to the Coos, Lower Umpqua and Sayusla website, the greeting is Nishnaq, which most people won't know how to say. But if you have a smartphone, we want to put a QR code and hold it up, and then you will get, and it will tell you how in the native language, and then their language, they say greetings. The idea was this focus point at the far end of the hallway would be this welcome to the Indigenous History Hall, a little bit of intriguing, oh, I didn't know that language stuff, and then an acknowledgement of the two tribes and the volunteer work that went into creating the visitor experience. Again, the idea is the Little Log Museum, Church Museum is going to have infrastructure, and then you're going to, over time, place exhibits that showcase different parts of history so people can connect and learn. So here we've got a little just draft example. One thing I want to be clear on is we have no idea what the tribes are going to be coming. So we have proposals, and we're going to do heavy lifting, and we're going to have conversations. And at the end of the day, the tone is to be extremely respectful of the really tricky bit of history for them, which is this was a concentration camp where genocide was committed. There were about 50,000 Native people along the coast when the wars, the disease, the genocide campaigns, the removals were all done. There were 343 survivors that came out of this camp. And they had, Oregon is 61.2 million acres. That was whittled down, and they wound up with just over 2,000 acres of the worst land possible. So it was a huge killing zone. It was a huge land grab zone. And we're going to acknowledge that history and the story of resilience that these people have gone through. Here, this is local history, and it's not easy. So anyway, we're going to start with a nice welcome. It's at the end of the hallway, nicely lit.
And then this is just a proposal. We took measurements of the wall on the north side existing. And the flow of the story for the visitor experience is to start with pre-European contact. And that first panel I love, we got a draft that's in more detail, but I love the messaging on it, which is to acknowledge we have archaeological evidence of people here 9,000 years ago.
Mm.
And for reference, at 2700 BC is when the Great Pyramids were built. So this is local history that really goes back in the archaeological record. We'd like visitors to just acknowledge what was happening right where they're standing today. There's also some nice bits in there. And then we were going to use the back of the door for some art pieces. And again, these are very traumatized groups of people, and it's very delicate to go from pre-European contact to the prison camp years that were right here in Yachats. And so we've got some art pieces on the back of the door that would be secured. Again, QR codes, your smartphones going into more information. And then the really delicate panel for the prison camp years right here in Yachats. And in the research for that, what we did was we looked at how the tribes and archaeologists and anthropologists are presenting that information in a very respectful way for the survivors, because the last survivors of the camps died in the 1940s. So, you know, it's not crazy to say you knew people that were still alive during World War II, you know, and that's the time of this and the impact on their families. So anyway, we've got a timeline that lays out how the Europeans did what they did to get the land and to get the people out of the way. And then I think it's very powerful that if, again, the tribes approve it, there are some photos of the survivors and you get to look at their faces, reading what happened to their families. Again, we don't want to, the story is more than that. The story is also the story of resilience and recovery and how these people survived what they did and what they're doing today. And so the next two panels, as you go through, talk about the Confederated Tribes of Coos, Laurumco, and Siuslaw today, and the Confederated Tribes of Siletz today. And I just want to do one infomercial statement that I personally experienced, which is I knew there were Native Americans and people and there were tribes. I didn't know what a confederation was.
Mhm.
And what a confederation is when they rounded everybody up from all these native nations that got along with each other or didn't get along with each other or had come, you know, whatever. The survivors were dropped in some melting pots in the camps. And they got through this experience with many of them dying. But the final survivors then built what's called these confederations. And Yachats is right between two of them. To the north of us is Siletz, to the south of us is Coos, Laurumco, and Siuslaw. And so when we talk about these issues of what happened to these people here, we're really going to be extraordinarily respectful and sensitive of everything for the survivors that knew some people who their grandparents or parents walked out of this.
I'd like to add too that the reason why we're presenting two panels about what they're doing now in terms of present culture and societies is because most people don't know. And they're aware of that. Like, for example, Siletz is the largest employer in Lincoln County. Coos, Laurumco, and Siuslaw are the largest employers in Florence. That they have health clinics and they have, they pay for the education of their children. And so I think it's important for people walking into this Indigenous exhibit to know this is who these confederations are today, you know, that shows what they rebuilt from hardly anything.
Exactly.
And this is very important, and we'll be having representative from the Coos, Laurumco, and Siuslaw tribe, representative from the Siletz tribe, speaking about that October 12th. And so this is why we have those two panels. And then representatives of both tribes will tell us what they want on those panels.
So the hope is that we've done the heavy lifting of drafting and laying things out and trying to be extraordinarily careful in how we handle all of these issues. And we have no real idea how much is gonna be okay, you know? The other comment I'd make, and actually if you flip to the next slide, just briefly, we talked about with this cabinet in the middle, on the left there's a screen, and you can put a USB drive with videos on it and have it move, you know, over to bring action and life to the exhibit area. There's, for example, there's a beautiful video up at Powwow. They have the oldest elders and the youngest little kids all dancing together in the renewal circle. And so if they give permission that we can include that in the museum exhibit, we'd love to have that be one of the videos that's kind of playing on a low volume in the area.
And the other video is the one that was produced by the Kuzara Kansai Indians, particularly, especially for the peace hike. That's shown every year.
I got a list. But as an example of a couple of things, one is for the visitor experience, as we're thinking this through. Below it, we're gonna put a bank of QR codes, because the visitor won't be sitting there and watching all these videos. But they, with a smartphone, they can click and get the QR codes and then watch them at their leisure at a later time. So that, you know, it's a way of like respecting visitors' time and the flow of information. The other key thing is throughout all of these exhibits, we're putting courtesy of. For example, if they allow you to show the video, that does not give the city of Yachats any rights to native dances. If they allow you to show the video, it doesn't give you any rights to the videography that was done up at Powwow. So there's this like acknowledgement and delicacy. They've had so much taken from them. We are not adding anything to that pile in this exhibit. And so there's let me finish up this slide and then we'll go to the next one. But we're talking about potentially putting information on how Yachats has stepped up as a community really quickly. The Amanda Trail, the Yahite Trail, potentially allowing native artists to display works for sale in the glass case, you know, and then so forth. So let's go to the next slide real quickly. Go ahead, John.
Well, from the very beginning, when I met with Carl in December, one of the first things I said is if you want View the Future to work on this exhibit, if you want, we'd only do it with tribal supervision, of which both tribes and they will supervise us. But also as a part of it, at the very first meeting with the tribes, we need to present to them all the artifacts that they have to give back to the tribe. And so, right, Carl?
True. Honestly, we really don't have that many artifacts to give back.
But they will be brought to in person to, we have our first meeting. We'll try to have agreed to get together. So we'll have that meeting in your office. Then also I let Bobby know and the museum Carl know that the other thing to do is to put in writing to each tribe from the city that all the words, the pictorials belong to them. That any changes, additions, subtractions would only be done with their permission. As it is with the Yahite Indian article in Prison Camp Years, that right now is 29 years old, with two major revisions. All the words, all the photos, pictorials belong to both of them. And so 29 years ago, we promised we would never sell that information for profit. We give it away. We've kept that promise for 29 years. All the signs, 7 interpretive signs, have been tribally supervised, and every word and pictorials with their permission. What Carl and I put together, or as the rough drafts, on those banners are those words and those photos, pictorials that they've already approved. We've not added anything additionally. And as Drew has said, that it'll be up to them what they want to share and what they don't want to share. And so they are a supervisor. And so right now, you're probably wouldn't do without him. He makes magic happen. And so Drew did a doodle. So we're trying to get two very busy groups of people together in Yarmouth at one time. And that will be a miracle, but we're gonna do it. They're going to supervise us and I think, you know, we've come a long way from over 30 years ago for them to come and do this. And I'm very proud of the museum too, be willing to go along with the historical truths. Yeah. So thank you all very much.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Well, just two observations, I guess. One is that, you know, as mayor, I get the seesaw, the newsletter, and I find that very telling in that it shows how well governed they are, I guess, and the government structures and all the activities that are going on and the youth development, et cetera. And I don't know how you can integrate that into an exhibit, but I think that there's something to sort of the meta level of this, is that this is a well-organized, democratic, if you will, you know, they have physicians and elders and all kinds of things that are going on. And I just find that to be a very insightful. And the other was, I was glad to hear that you might consider some contemporary art from people and an opportunity to sell it. I think that that would be a wonderful thing.
I have a question. I was gonna raise my hand in terms of, are you gonna show something about the connection with Yahats? And you said you would, which is answering my question, because I think that's super important with all the work you have done for the last 30 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, this one will be about the people here.
Yeah.
It'll be all about the affect people.
Right.
When you see the
But
content.
their willingness to let us back in their lives, right?
Yes, I mean, that's the miracle
That is,
that happened here.
One more question and then we're going to take a break.
I have a question, because I think indeed, when we redid this, you've done such an amazing job and continue to do. But I am concerned about younger children.
About what?
Younger children.
Uh-huh.
And how do we reach them? I mean, I think the displays are good, but I'm thinking when I had little kids, is there story hours we could do every now and then? Is there a way to hook our little children in? Because they're going to lose, no offense, having raised 3 boys, they're going to lose interest. And that's where I want to plant seeds, because they're not getting the real truth from our educational system right now.
to respond directly to that question. I did one little subtle thing and I got one idea that I'm just gonna throw out.
Okay.
For whatever, but only in response. One is down at lower level on one of the panels, there is an example of the shinny game. How they dressed to go and play. It's like field hockey here locally. It was a big thing. In Coho, it was the old shinny field.
Oh.
So anyway, there's like, that was a nod to
Okay.
a younger audience.
Okay.
The other thing I think would be really cool in maybe long run, which is let's have a shinny game with,
Yeah.
you know, some of the kids.
Yeah.
And further, expand on that is that View the Future does do presentations to children. And mostly we have this, another wonderful volunteer, Shannon Locke, that does most of those presentations. She'll be doing another one at the end of the month to the library summer program. So, and I was a part of one that had 52 school kids
Right.
from the Coquille School. You should see 52 kids bouncing on that. But now the best way to teach kids is more didactically, more, experiential.
But that's what I'm thinking.
And
If I'm a parent coming my kid on the weekend, is there something there that it is an experience?
can I chime in? View the Future is developing a curriculum for young children, and we've already piloted it with a couple of different groups that
Okay.
have come, and we're looking for funding to expand that curriculum to
Okay.
reach younger children also. And we've been piloting this with the library, junior conservationist program, YFAP, and all the way up to 15 to 18-year-olds from Afro Refugee in Salem. They brought a group. So the curriculum that we're developing can be tailored to any age. And we're really focused on this area and educating what happened here. And so I can envision us doing some hiking habitat and history. That's the name of our pilot project, and taking them to the Little Log Museum as part of that educational experience
Okay.
when they visit here. And it's really in its beginning stages, but we've already started an educational packet based off of our Trail ED map, which also is under the supervision of the tribes. So in that vein, we are hearing that and seeing a need for that also, and not wanting to traumatize them, but tell stories about the way they lived here, how they cultivated their food, how they planted, how they survived in these harsh conditions, the ones that did. And those are the kinds of stories we're talking to small children.
Okay, and that's what I'm thinking, again, I'm not a childcare expert, but just something where children sit around and learn. So if I'm a parent, I'm bringing my kids here on a weekend, it couldn't happen every weekend, but maybe once a month. Enough said. I just would like to.
I think that's a good.
Great idea.
If there could be, like, we're talking about that game, I forgot what it's called.
She-
Outside, but if there were a couple of games outside that originated with, our indigenous folk, that were games that kids have never seen before, and they're like, how do you play this?
So we'll see what they're willing to.
Right,
share.
well, that's exactly right.
That's the first next step.
Yeah, anyway, it's wonderful.
Anyway, we're happy to help ease that transition in those discussions.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. This is very informational, and I'm looking forward to the rebooted museum. All right, it is, we're gonna, I know some of you have been here a long time and have been waiting a long time, but we are going to take a break until 3:00. We've been here even longer, so.
Praise the Lord.
We're now going to have a discussion around View the Future fee for service contracts.
Go ahead and introduce that topic. So this is a conversation that started a couple months ago. The organization View the Future brought to us the concept of doing a fee for service contract, multi-year contract for the work that they do to support the city's mission, and some conservation easements that the city is required to do as part of the 804 mitigation settlement. We recently acquired the landmark property, and part of that acquisition, there was a requirement to have that in a conservation easement. As part of that 804 trail settlement, the Lot 26, which holds our pump station on Ocean View Drive, that is it's one of those lots that is part of that that 804 mitigation package settlement, that their agreement is that they have to put that into conservation easement and then deed it to the city. So that would, and when those two pieces are done, both the city and the county will have completed their requirements as part of that settlement agreement that took place many years ago. So those are two pieces of service that the organization is concretely giving to the city as a service. Beyond that, there's no doubt the amount of work and effort that they put into the community and helping reach some of our more cultural, educational pieces of work that we don't have the capacity in the city to do ourselves. The work that they're putting towards the exhibit at the Little Log Church Museum that we just heard about, that's really good work. And I know they'll talk a little bit more even about some of the educational pieces and work that they provide to the city. And I would like to hear a little bit about the work and fee and cost that goes into them holding a conservation easement. This is a multi-year contract. This is why it's coming to you. This is not for me to decide to sign on. This is for you to decide and how to go forward with it, if to go forward with it. I've thought about it a lot. There's no doubt in my mind the work that the View of the Future does for the community and for the city and in the partnership there. I think there's several ways that you can think about going forward with this. You could look at the contract that's being proposed as is. You could look at discussing a shorter, more pilot project contract version of this. You could even discuss wanting to just pay specifically for the service that's being provided through View the Future with the conservation easements. You could look at the community grant program that we will be having in front of us here shortly as a way to fund a nonprofit organization in our community with equal opportunity as others for educational and events and things like that. So I think there's a lot of different ways for you as a council to be taking in the information that you get today and how to decide to move forward with it. So I will pass it to View the Future to share some of the more statistical information and why they have come up with this request for City Council.
Thank you, Mayor Berge, City Manager Price, and honorable City Council members. Thank you for hearing our proposal today and taking the time. We are Yachats local land trust. And what land trusts do is help preserve land. And our values very much align with the council's values of preserving open space, preserving green space, having the best interest of our community's environmental preservation first and foremost at hand. So we can all live here for a really long time in perpetuity, or until we're not. So I think it's important to say what a conservation easement is for those guests here and those on the line that it is a voluntary, permanent legal agreement that restricts certain land uses to protect natural, cultural, or wildlife values. It may allow for public access for activities like trails and remains binding across ownership changes. A land trust typically holds the easement and monitors compliance. And I didn't even know the complexities and the layers involved in what is entailed in the whole process of beginning to end of developing a conservation easement in partnership with city, state, or private landowner. View the Future believes that we cannot preserve land without consideration of the cultural values and the preservation of our indigenous history and archaeological preservation here in Yachats. That is first and foremost to us. View the Future has played a huge role in the development of that historical cultural and the bringing forth the knowledge of that historical truth that existed here before all of us. And we continue to do so with educational programming and development of curriculum and materials for the community and visitors alike to take with them and embrace the culture here when they visit here and know that it's not just a beautiful tourist attraction, that there's so much more to Yachats. Our primary activity is working with landowners to create the conservation easements on their land, and they are donated and contribute to the overall environmental sustainability of Yachats. Protecting water quality, biodiversity, and ecosystems by preventing overdevelopment, and we support a healthier environment. I already said that, but I need to emphasize that. View the Future works with county, city, and state partners and values the relationships and plethora of project success that we've had in the past 20 years in our partnerships together. And we have significantly contributed financially to many of these projects through grants and donations. We are aligned with your values and feel like as we work to accomplish our strategic goals and values as a nonprofit within this city, and we've accomplished much of our strategic plan already by hiring myself as their first paid employee executive director and expanding our outreach, education, development, and land protection efforts. We are a land trust and we are a growing land trust. As we are expanding, all of our operational, organizational, and programmatic initiatives, we are also expanding our need to divide and conquer our time. We have a lot more responsibilities and initiatives going on in the community that we need to prioritize. And unfortunately, we're having to say no to a few things because we're getting stretched pretty thin. We have a very active working board. And as I focus on the organizational and programmatic development and nonprofit compliance and outreach and education and development in this community, it's important that we still have the bandwidth for being immersed in community projects and educational awareness of our history and the need to conserve our open and protected spaces. So in summary, funding to View the Future for a fee-for-service agreement is meant to continue this reciprocal relationship that we've developed over the last 20 years by really acknowledging the amount of work and effort that View the Future has given, gives, and is committed to giving in the future. And this is going to be hopefully an ongoing service, which is why we proposed it this way versus a grant-funded one-time project, due to the actual and more true current and historical work we do. It's not a one and done situation. We are committed to partnering with you on completing and assisting in recreational projects and drawing in tourism with our partnership with the Peace Hike, which is expanding and growing. And we also added another component with a celebration with the tribes in finality, which lends to all of these tribal concessions for our exhibits, for our events, for our speaker presentations. So we are committed to educating and continuing our efforts in the community. And in that vein, we don't feel like it's appropriate to apply for a grant for a service that has been ongoing for years and we hope continues for more years. Any questions about the proposal? We've given you an example of how typical land trusts do fees and services and contracts for landowners and just one conservation easement.
So while I was looking through it all, I was trying to wrap my head around like a 5-year contract and then how that would look like in our budget and where it would come out of which part of the budget and different things. And it was really, what it came down to was helping with the land conservation, would be really, really beneficial. It's something that's in your skill set and not necessarily in the city skill set. So I can see that really being a professional fee that would be, it would help us out quite a bit as a city to have that taken care of. But then I was seeing the more of the cultural preservation and education more as like the community support, which is then done annually as grants and there's a process. So I haven't quite come together like how this contract would look and where it would come out of the budgets, but those would be the concerns. But I don't doubt that what you do is really helpful for Yachats.
Yeah, if I could just respond to that, the majority of, and we are proposing $10,000 a year.
Yeah.
The majority of that $10,000 is eaten up in the cost of monitoring and enforcement of an easement for the life of the easement, which is forever.
Yes.
So there is, when we accept an easement each year, we have to basically prepare to visit the site, write a report afterward. If there's something that we notice that's changed to the site, then we have to document that, and we have to talk to the landowner about that, if that change was inconsistent with the terms of the easement, and work that out. But that's sort of the basic commitment and we accept that annual monitoring enforcement. There could be 5 years down the road where, let's say for the landmark property, perhaps a city manager, but city council member may get the idea, maybe we should start a hot dog concession stand at the landmark property or something like that. And so basically we as monitors and enforcers of that easement would have to say, well, that's not listed as a permitted use in the easement. Sorry, that's not something that could happen. So that's a time commitment for us as well. And again, with the landmark property, there is, as part of the agreement, that a observation platform may be built in the future on that property. In the future, staff would be involved in reviewing whatever plans were actually designed for that viewing platform. We may be helping in the coordination of agency review for that platform. So there are expenses that we would incur later, maybe not immediately. And so you have to try and crystal ball what that might cost us as an organization over time to make that commitment. And, just in terms of the formula developed by the Land Trust Accreditation Commission, which we just sort of tried out with this landmark and lot 26, we're looking at roughly for even just 25 years out, maybe $20,000 of cost to view the future. Now, that may also include setting aside some money for legal services, should that ever present. So just to kind of explain that.
Yes, that's good.
And
Thank
in
you.
addition to that, you know, this is a local land trust,
Yeah.
not a regional land trust. Everyone that's on the board, everyone that volunteers, and by the way, Wade Rendowski is one of our board members, she's waiting for her turn. Everyone is basically local, have a real commitment to this area.
Mhm.
So we're more involved than just yearly monitoring.
Yeah.
Even more involved than what John said, because like I'm on the work group.
Yeah.
I was able to get the architect to join us. I intimately involved 6 years in the estuary boardwalk or walkway project. We also raise funds.
Yes.
And we have raised funds. You know, the city's not in a position to be raising funds. We are in the position of getting that matching money for a city grant. We have the bailiwick to do that. And we also, because of our connection with the tribe, we got a tribal grant. You know, that always strengthens a city grant. So that's where a lot of those partnerships come in. We're currently working on a rehab of 804 North.
Yeah.
Okay, physically it's not in the city, but we're right next to it. It's an important adjunct to the city. We want to make it wheelchair accessible again.
Yes.
It's not gonna cost city anything. It's not even gonna cost your time. It's gonna be all contracted out. We have a lump of money from the generosity of the fireside. And we get that dollar opt-out fund for the 804 North, and it's also contributing to the estuary walkway project for the south. We're the vessels for those different types of projects. The German Botanical Reserve would not exist today if it wasn't for View the Future.
Yeah.
And the east side of Salmon Creek would be logged by now if there wasn't a conservation easement with the owners preventing the road going.
Yes.
You know, there's all these different pieces that we contribute to, and you can't put a dollar amount on a grant.
Yeah.
Just can't. I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
Where do we put you?
Yeah.
You know, but a lot of it's hours and hours and hours of service. That only actually expanded, you know, because we hired someone. Now it's expanding. We're doing more educational programs, including for children, curriculum and this and that, which is all really good. I mean, that's what we want to do. But it's a lot of hours for all of us. And but let me tell you, putting together a conservation easement is a complex process.
Yeah.
And we know how to do it.
Yes.
But even in the best scenario, and you know this, Bobby, firsthand now, the landmark, it takes over a year. If it's everyone's on board. And it can be an expensive process as well, in addition to the enforcement.
And to further answer your question.
Yes.
This fee for service really is in regard to land protection.
Yeah.
The educational program that you say is more project oriented, yes, it is more project oriented, and we hope to be able to not be precluded from applying for a project oriented grant.
Okay.
In the future, if we were to be given a service contract for these land protection efforts. And given that we are the local Yachats Land Trust and the keepers of the historical truth, so to speak, already, whether or not we're getting money or not, we're giving of our time to all of these groups who are coming to us to say, we want to bring a group of students to the Amanda. We want to bring this group from Salem. Hey, can the university students come to the grotto and learn about this? We're doing all of this because we are the people they go to. But the people that come to us may not know we are a nonprofit, that we need donations, that we need funding for all of these things they're asking of us. But because our value points are so strong about what we can offer in the way of education, we're not saying no unless we really don't have someone to do it. And it starts, like Mary Ellen said, with the children. And the children in this community are our future. And if they're not getting this education in the schools, then if we don't continue this sort of thing on the side, they're not gonna have any of it.
Yeah.
So unless they're part of the tribe. And so it's a really good question, Nicole, and it's something that we know we have to do.
Yes.
And it takes away from the land protection, and so we need that support in order to be able to stretch ourselves in that
Yes.
capacity. Otherwise, we are gonna have to start saying no to people. We won't have the bandwidth to fill these needs in the community.
I have, so if we had a contract, hypothetical question. The city has a lease on the Roca property. So how do you say it? I forgot now. I get getting it wrong. And we have some obligations on that. How could we leverage a contract, or how do you see a contract working where we would say, we need some maintenance insights, maintenance contract, maintenance plan for the next 25 years for that piece of property? And would that fall, could that, or how might that fall within a contract? How?
Well, to be clear, land trusts do not maintain the conservation.
I understand.
Now, what we can do though, is we can partner with the city as part of that $10,000 a year service contract. To guide you and maybe work on grants, a grant to hire a forest management consulting firm. Like Trout Mountain does that, and they work in this area, and they would do a 25-year plan. Exactly what you're asking for and looking at. They will ask what your goals are. And also they will be the experts to then develop a plan that's in accordance with the Forest Practices Act and its new revisions. And they will say, you prioritize this, this is the next priority, this is the next priority, this is how much it's gonna cost. So that's basically what it sounds like you're being obligated to do.
In addition to what Joanne just said, we have a really active conservation committee that vets all of the conservation criteria and land value when we take on a conservation easement, whether or not it's appropriate to take on or not. And so our conservation committee is an active group that could guide you in that effort, not only to find the resource for a land management plan and write grants for that, but also, we have someone on the conservation committee who has 30 years in land plan and land use planning and the Forest Service, and is very, very skilled. And so we have people who can guide you in your efforts and identifying what your goals should be with this property and what happens at the end of 25 years.
So what I'm hearing is it would be a sort of a consulting agreement, and as part of this, I'm just not sure how we would structure a contract so that you weren't getting, we didn't come to you for every single nickel and dime item, that you were not.
Thank you.
Well, contracts are mutual agreements, but that we could also come to you with something that may not be a specific land conservation question. So that would be something that we'd have to work with our attorney to see how we can broaden the sort of the definition a little bit.
Well, I think that we've already been working with Bobby on just identifying land in the city that could be future open space. And so that is something that you saw was included in the
Right.
services.
Yes.
The focuses solely on a space plan for implementation. To connect private landowners to identify, maybe protect those crops and so on.
The contract you have with Broca is not the conservation
Mhm.
anything. It's something much different.
Yes.
And so we would need to work with you and look at what the city has agreed to do. But generally, if there's any type of a management obligation, you get something like Trout Mountain involved when it comes to forestry. I mean, that's pretty part and parcel, because anything the city does, they're obligated to follow the Forest Practices Act.
Mhm.
And it depends on how much you feel obligated to do over the next
Yeah.
25 years.
No, I appreciate your original answer. What are our goals for it? And, you know, we don't want trees falling down on the property owners that abut the property, for example, but we don't have. So anyhow, the point being that your expertise extends beyond the specifics of land conservation. We'd like to be able to leverage that, I think, as part of a contractual agreement.
I think we see that as part of it as well.
Yeah.
Other counselors, thoughts, comments?
I think the interest of the city are intersect and overlap the interests of the future in many ways. And I think the city has an interest in making sure they stay around. And the conservation easement, there are conservation easements on city property that they will be managing.
Mhm.
And I'm supporting the idea because I expect that the value the city gets from their everything they do is something that's worth maintaining.
Mhm. Okay. Catherine,
No, I mean, I totally see that what you're doing deserves money to pay for what you're doing. I guess I'm just not, I mean, since this is beginning, just wondering if this is best to do for 5 years or to do like you had possibly said as one suggestion that, you know, do it as a pilot year and see where we go. But also in terms of, because there are a lot of, not a lot, there are other nonprofit organizations that are, you know, looking for help and funds. And with our the grant, right? Program, thinking that you also have every opportunity to be in that pool. But I think you are also providing things that are separate from all these other nonprofits that are specific. You know, it's like, okay, you are protecting the landmark property in Morris. You are doing these other things that I do agree that if it's 1 year or 5 years, that we really need to look at.
Where did you come up with the 8 years? It just seems like an odd number.
8.
You said it wasn't at 8 years?
5.
The original was 8.
No.
I think, didn't we have 8?
No, it's always 5.
Oh, I thought I saw.
You can make it 8 if you want.
No, I thought I saw 8 at one point, which I thought was the odd. But where's the 5 come from?
Well, we're trying to get to a point where we raise a sufficient amount of funds that will guarantee our costs for monitoring for 25 years or more these easements, which is why I'm a little concerned with a 1-year pilot program, because we're committed to taking these easements and monitoring and enforcing them forever. But if our contract after 1 year is terminated or not continued, then we're sort of.
I hear you.
Yeah, so, but if the city feels that, you know, you would prefer a 1 to 2 year contract if we could word it such that, assuming we are adequately performing our responsibilities, the contract will be renewed. I just wouldn't want to get.
I guess it's also kind of hard since we just finished the budget. It's like, we have to work with the budget as was set. But I do hear what you're saying.
Another point that occurred to me as we were in our discussions and just in the almost year that I've been involved and really working on our outreach and education about land protection efforts, we've had so many property owners speak to us, and we have had 2 site visits from private property owners come our way just in the last few months based on our community education events and we're going to continue to host those. And so as more people move here, more people are reaching out to us saying, hey, I want to hear about what you're doing. I heard about it. Joanne had a couple from Utah who was hearing about our work here and wanted to find out more about it and how to contribute. And so I think as our organization grows, the people within our community are gonna want to support the city's goal and our goals and our nonprofit. And that means donating space, and that goes to the city. And then we need to be the holders because we're here for you. And so I really see this becoming a reciprocal relationship as time goes on and as people become more aware of the need for protecting our biodiverse area and marine life and all of it.
So two points I think are.
We're gonna grow.
Well, I have a question and then a point. So I think that this organization differentiates from all the other organizations, at least that I can think of, in that they are working with city property. This is our property, and I think that that's a substantive distinction. And then my question, and I think you may have just answered it, was once the conservation easement is done, is that essentially city property? Like, let's take the Sakamoto property. If that went into conservation easement, is that part of the city? I mean, what's the legal structure of
The
it?
city owns it. The
Yeah.
city, if they donate it to the city accepts the donation.
Okay, so that's
your property.
okay. So
But you accept it with restrictions, as though you're a private property owner. I have restrictions on my property as a conservation. The city will have restrictions on it, like they do with the landmark.
So I think that that's again an important distinction between other organizations that might be grant oriented.
That 25 years, like if you're doing it for 25, you're committing for 25 years, that's a long time.
That's longer.
And I think another piece of your letter was the fact that not only the road property, but the whole of Yahats Ridge, how you've been fighting for it and working to try to find someone to support that. And it is the focal point besides the ocean of our town.
So
we have taken over 200 people up there, 240 something people up there to educate them more. And the return on just the tours in educating people about what's going on here is incredible and has given us a lot of support in return.
So, okay, I'm ready. Are we ready to move forward? Yes, please.
So what is the cost of one conservation easement if you were to have it with a totally different private property, or with us if we were to just do like piece by piece, like just?
Oh, it's on the interest accreditation formula, it's roughly around $20,000 in the cost for monitoring and enforcing the easement in perpetuity, not including any cost to set up the easement. But once we hold it, that's about what we're calculating.
And And then if you add the administrative and time and contractual efforts put into that, it's multiple hours of service hours that would ultimately be billed for.
And then there's all the work that goes in prior to setting up an easement that the future or any land trust is involved with. And Bobby, you know, just with the landmark property, the hours that were put in, because we're dealing with Thousand Friends of Oregon and Oregon Shores Coalition and the time it is to write up to these. With private landowners, it's even more complex. They may need surveying, they may need an appraisal, they may need, and it's, you know, dealing with restricted uses is very serious. People may come in with the most altruistic, you know, intentions and values, and then have to deal with the reality of restrictions. And that's happened with one of our conservation easements. Actually two. And particularly when landowners change. And it's true here of the city too. You guys won't always be up here. You guys may actually retire, you know. You'll go on to do your thing. And
You retire again.
so we have a new city council, we have a new city manager, and they may have different feelings about those values, or they may be uneducated about conservation easements, or they may want something different on a piece of property like the land.
But they can't change it, can we?
What?
But they can't change it, can we?
Well, see, this is the thing, this is where problems come up. Because then they have to know how serious this legal document is. And it's up to view the future. You know, the three of us may not be here, there'll be other people on our land trust who are legally obligated to make sure we enforce those terms with the city. You see.
So don't you renew this every 5 years?
Is what land trusts do.
Every 5 years?
And that's
Gotta
what
be
the
renewed.
state, there's about five
Be what it would
statutes,
be,
Oregon,
or drop.
in Oregon, about conservation easements alone.
Sure.
And they're very restrictive. And they hold people like us highly responsible. And new private landowners sometimes, or the cities or counties have problems with it.
So this would have to be renewed every 5 years then, forever.
Whatever,
Or
well,
or replaced with a different company.
Pardon? Pardon?
it may not happen. I mean, at some point,
Because you say you're taking care of the land forever.
right, but we're also trying to bank money so that we have it in the future.
We're growing support, writing grants, cultivating more donors. So we're diversifying our funding. We don't have a crystal ball, but I'd like to say that in 5 years, we're more financially sound. And I would like to see us in this contractual relationship for as long as we can sustain it. However, reality happens and we understand that. And in 5 years, you may be in a different place and a position, and we may be too. But for now, we're trying to establish this relationship in a working reciprocal relationship where it's valued on both ends. And one is not giving more than the other, and we are a partner, truly a partner, because that's what we are in reality anyway.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop the discussion. How would the council feel if we were to do a 3-year contract with an automatic renewal, similar to what we have with the city manager? The reason I propose 3 years is I think several of us are a little uncomfortable with 5. But 3 spans the next city council, gives them a year to see how this works, and gives you a year to familiarize themselves. And with an automatic renewal, we wouldn't have to have a large debate over it. It just would automatically renew unless it was canceled. That's what we do with our city manager.
So there would be something in the document. I mean, it's gonna be automatically renewed, but is there something that, if you're gonna put it's automatically renewed, then the next council,
There's a mechanism to stop.
there's gonna be an out clause.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just wondering.
Yeah, that'll be the way it would work.
So similar to what we do at the chamber, Ben.
The chamber, I don't know that we have an automatic renewal, do we? We do, okay. I know for the first 3 years we do. For the next 3 years we do.
Well, it's not an automatic renewal, but it does have the option to auto renewable. It's to revisit every.
Okay, so
I see.
Yeah,
we'll leave that to our esteemed attorney to write that, that part of it. And I'm sure they'll, they take care of the city and make sure that we're that.
So what you're saying, from hearing is proposal of a 3-year contract, and if all is going well,
And
No,
both parties
no,
are
no,
bidding.
no, unless there's a problem.
well, it's the opposite of.
But that's the way the contract would be.
It's not a matter of how things are going, it's a matter of how they are perceived. In other words, this board has authority to say, we're done with that. But if they don't do that, then they don't have to take action, it rolls over.
Right.
I see. That's the import of the proposal.
Okay, is there criteria?
I think that's a great question, and I think we would need to depend on some negotiation to make sure that those criteria are mutually agreeable.
Too nebulous.
Well, we're not at a point yet. We don't have a contract in front of us.
No, I don't.
We need to have an attorney or their attorneys, but I think probably our attorney to draft an agreement.
Yes.
And I'd like to see input from the
Yeah,
View the Future and or its attorneys on that.
yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, you're right. Without a description of the criteria, it's just
A whereas.
on a whim.
Yeah,
You know,
that's not okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's,
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. If the obligation is that you do certain things, which you're agreeing to do, then you stop doing them, then yeah. So can I don't even know if we need a motion for this, but can we reach agreement to ask the city manager to work with our attorney and the View the Future staff and or legal counsel to come forward with a contract for at least 3 years with automatic renewal with specific criteria. And I would like that to include some consulting capabilities.
And our request is that it doesn't preclude us from applying for project or grant funding for a specific project that would benefit the city.
Okay, I think that's reasonable for those items that are not specifically spelled out in the contract.
Right. Under the new grant.
Yes.
Yes.
And to have this be specific for their land use services.
Land use, land conservation.
Whatever they're feeling was underneath this contract.
Yeah.
And cultural preservation?
I think that's a bit of a stretch for us. It depends on how well we can define specifics, I guess. I think my sense is, well, I'm more comfortable with just starting off with just the land. If there's a tie, they tie in together. So preserving a piece of land that has historical significance that may or may not need a conservation easement. That'd be. City manager, are you comfortable with this? Okay, so I think we can agree at this point to moving forward, and I'm looking forward to it. And it's very impressive, the kind of services that you provide us at the city. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, finally. This has been a test of your endurance. We have in front of us as the next order of business, the 2 applications for the Finance Committee. Lisa and Doug Beck, if you'd like to both come up at the same time, that's fine. And appreciate you stepping up. This is all of our commissions are consequential. But this one is really consequential because we have long-term financing needs in front of us. We need a vision for how we're going to get there. So I think what we'll do is, why don't each of you make a opening statement as to why you want to do this and what you bring to the table, and then we'll open it up for questions. So either one, whoever wants to start, you're welcome to start.
Well, lived here about 4.5 years, and unfortunately, I have some physical limitations. I've not been able to be out Trails Committee or even go to many of the beautiful places surrounding us. And after we quit working 40, 50-hour weeks, and then had a project that took roughly another year, and finally we were finding ourselves with a little breathing room. And this opportunity was mentioned to us, and myself began to find some health stuff and physical limitations, as I said. This seemed to be a good fit based on career and most recent long-term position at the Oregon Insurance Commissioner's Office as a regulator of insurance companies, regularly dealing with statutes, administrative rules, primarily focused on bringing insurers into compliance, many of whom, surprising, try to get away with things or are not in compliance. And so that was truly the focus of the position that I especially were in. One of the things that germane to one of our other big parts of our job was when a new insurance company wanted to come to Oregon to be licensed, they had to obviously vet them. And we had financial examiners as colleagues. And so they were the ones that were truly delving into the financials of the nitty-gritty financial part. But as a compliance person, we would be looking at other metrics that were provided by data by the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. So they may have been licensed in 42 other states, wanting to come to Oregon. Tons of data to pour through, and I would look at claims data, complaint indices, because if somebody's a problem child in another jurisdiction, should I want our Oregon insurance buying public to be dealing with it? No. So we could preclude that from stopping them, and that did happen. I did, because our recommendations would go in front of the insurance commissioner and upper management. And there was one company where I said, absolutely not, they should not be here, and they all stood by that. And that company flew all their attorneys and did a dog and pony show, and we still said no. So as far as the financials, again, we looked at that because if a company was out of compliance, big one was not paying claims properly, or all of a sudden denying claims, and we would get those through our advocacy unit as complaints coming from Oregon, folks that have auto or home or life or health. Why aren't they paying claims? Was indicative of they were in financial trouble. Paying claims untimely, especially health insurance. There's statutes all over the place. You have to pay within this time, administrative rules. They have to pay interest. And sometimes we had a company that was just limping along and found it more viable to pay the statutory interest than paying the claims payment. So we were tangentially involved with the financial viability. Again, not financial examiners, that was their main job. Additionally, there were quarterly financial meetings with all the financial examiners, and these were on our domestic, which is Oregon-based companies. And they would do tons of reporting on that, and we would attend, and they were graded, there was level 1 is X and level 2 is this, and some were on, quarterly monitoring, or instead of quarterly, oh, now they're down to monthly monitoring, and then, oh boy, they're financially in trouble. And while I was there, 2 went completely insolvent, and I was one of 2 chosen to work with a receivership company. This was all done with court orders, very structured, what we could and we could not do. And I worked with the company, weekly meetings with the receivership company to wind down the defunct insurers' respective books of business, and to help ensure that as many claims as possible could be paid out. And some, unfortunately, had to be on a pro rata basis. So did have experience with that, some not so good. And then I worked as an insurance agent for 12 years prior to the commissioner's office, 2 different agencies. And I worked with the owners of the business because as a captive, we were captive. So meaning, we worked with one, they were huge. See them on TV all the time in a lot of stadiums. And I would be involved with the planning of the budget for the coming year, look at commission statements, look at our policy counts to see where we were at. And if and when something came up that was would have been an expenditure, that I would be consulted as to whether we could or we should wait to do it, or if we can proceed. Thinking of it, which was for an office, all new office furniture and updating aesthetics, obviously clearly much smaller in scale, but to me, it's with the skills, that skill set I have, which is I have a penchant for diving into the subjects and tasks and critical thinking. I think that it's scalable. Obviously, just like insurance has 5 million acronyms, so does the city. I mean, looking at, possibility of an LID as a possible funding mechanism, it's governed by Oregon statutes. And so there's a lot of, well, certainly different subject matters, areas under the city's purview, housing taxes, that's not insurance, it's an entirely different subject. But the experience, I believe, is relative and transferable. I don't have experience with accounting specific software. I believe I read in my research that they use Springbrook software for accounting needs. I'm not a computer wizard, but if necessary, of course, I'd be happy to learn from somebody willing to familiarize me with it, if that was needed. And as far as thanks to a hint from Mayor Birdie, I found the master plans on the website for August 21 of the water master plan and the 2022 wastewater master plan. I did see the one for stormwater that was existing in 08, but it looks like there's only a draft from 2024. I wasn't sure the background of that, of what installed that, but that was of interest to me. And I don't have, to be blunt, I don't have experience in capital planning, including infrastructure IT. But I believe the skill set I have, I love working collaboratively, and I have no qualms about absolutely, being blunt. If I don't know it, I have no issues going to somebody that I know knows a lot more than I do. And especially learning all the new, from the TLT to the LIDs to the, URDs, obviously, getting back, everything has its acronyms, and obviously municipalities are no exception. So, so those are just based on some questions that Mayor Birdie had sent. And I just really, after being here and finally getting a chance to breathe a little, want to give back to the village and want to become more involved and get to know a lot more about our cities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug,
And I'm Douglas Beck.
lucky enough to be husband of Lisa. And I want to thank Mayor Birdie and esteemed members of the council for listening to us, and considering us. I also worked at the Oregon Insurance Division as a compliance officer for 25 years. And apart from, including what Lisa has mentioned, my forte was interpreting statute and rule. And we would do investigations of the insurance companies based on complaints, calls from consumers, whatever. It came from everywhere. And our investigations, we had maybe 25 to 40 investigations ongoing at one time. I always wanted my investigations to go all the way to consent orders. That's where the company has to pay the money to us. Insurance companies love their money, and they would argue their interpretation. They bring their in-house counsel. These are, nationwide insurance companies. Plus, they would have outside counsel, maybe from New York, Chicago, Seattle, Portland, and we'd argue. And the insurance companies had a step they could take if they didn't agree with our consent order. They could take us to administrative law judge, try to get it overturned, and none of them ever did. I had over 200 consent orders against insurance companies. My infrastructure knowledge is I turn on the faucet and the water comes out, I flush it on and the water goes away. And reading about bond measures and that type of stuff when I voted. Financial documents, I like to invest, used to like to invest in the stock market. I can't do that anymore because of my age. But I'd have to read, the company's balance sheets, income statements, all that good stuff. And open questions.
I have questions.
Go ahead.
What is your comfort level of like evaluating long-term revenue forecasting and going and looking at additional ways to bring in additional funds?
Something, again, that have never done in official capacity or they're very small is that level, because there was involved in that in the agency phase of my career. I've been doing quite a bit of research, and I apologize, I don't really have that perfect answer.
Oh, no, just wondering if how comfortable you are going and
Okay.
researching and
I'm-
looking for new ways and digging into finding options and
Yes.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I think, like I mentioned at the first finance committee meeting, that, just being very detailed and very conscientious, always looking outside the box. This is maybe the way it's always been done. It may be wonderful, but what could possibly be? Like just even watching today's meeting is it's not a one size fits all. There may be a little nuance of, oh, that's a little different than we've had. Okay, well, this may be something that maybe has never been done, or something that can be done small, start out as a pilot and see how it works. Or so opening, just very open-minded about trying something. And I'm very into collaborating with, and my brain goes straight to, it was mentioned today with Depot Bay. And one presentation was looking at what would a city our size or similar size do. I think that is extremely important to go, this is how Florence may attack something, or this is how, somebody similarly situated, and see what their successes are. Or, you know what, we tried that and it did not work well. Why didn't it work well? And have that dialogue. And I think that's where we can learn a lot if we don't have it in our back pocket to know this is tried and true. So I think there's a lot of variables, obviously, depending on what the project or the goal is. So yeah, very open to having those kinds of conversations and just that, again, that thinking just has to happen.
Yeah.
You can't just rubber stamp and you can't just it can't just be done in a box.
Right, yeah, I think.
Excuse me, and for me, you lose money in the stock market. You don't see trends and how things are gonna be, going along. So that's helped me there. But like Lisa, I like to learn and I like to find my experts and learn from them, develop my own knowledge from that.
Something I'd really like to do is really evaluate all of our financial policies. That sounds like that's something that'd be right up your alley. Yeah.
Yes. And him a grammar.
Okay.
You didn't.
Oh, my, I didn't see it.
Yes,
I
please.
should know the answer, to the first one, but I don't. In terms of the finance commission, how many members are we down? And I'm curious because I didn't.
I believe the number is 5 and we have 2 currently.
Okay, and then I don't know the answer to this one either, but I probably should. Do we as city council and or commissions have any rules about relatives and or married couples being on the same commission?
It's an excellent question. We had until a recent resignation, another commission that had a married couple. And I believe there may have been one in the past also. There are rules of quorum. This is a committee, so it means you cannot have a discussion that forms a quorum. And if I'm in fact right, and Bobby will have the number, if it is 5 members, then it means if you talk about something between yourselves, you could not talk to a third person.
But if there's only, you said there's 2.
What did we decide on?
Well, I'm 5. I'm part of the committee. I'm 5. So
Make
3, yeah, so if we bring on the 2, then that 5 makes a 3 make a quorum.
So anything they talk about together, they cannot talk to anybody else about.
Until they're in the meeting,
Until there's a meeting, yeah.
correct?
I just.
Yeah, no.
We had absolute rules that we didn't allow at all.
As far as when we approved the previous couple, we decided we didn't have rules. It may be something we should consider, I don't know. But we don't have a rule about it. So, that is I think it's a legitimate concern because people that have been together for a very long time tend to sort of have commonality of thought pattern, et cetera.
It was plus it becomes uncomfortable, you can't talk to anybody else. I'm sorry.
Well, I watched the interview through the finance committee to prepare for today. And you did address like having what it would be like for you guys to be on a committee together. But having worked together for so long, you really develop skills where you're not necessarily following each other's advice and you're independently thinking and in your own thoughts. So,
That was the question again, exactly, as Nicole, Counselor Hedlund brought up, that, yes, we are 2 different individuals with different thoughts and different ways to attack a problem with same goal in mind, but different.
At least that tends toward being risk averse and I'm a risk taker.
There you go.
How did you find out about the opening and what then particularly interested you? Had you gone to any of the meetings, the finance committee meetings or city council meeting? I mean, how did you find out that we had some openings and why did you decide this was the commission for you? It's kind of obvious, but.
Yeah, I mean, just, I did find out from Counselor Hedlund.
Okay.
There was an opening, a few openings.
Okay.
At least, because when I read it, it was by the city manager is the chair, and then I think it said up to 6, I thought. is that-
Yeah, maybe more, yeah.
Okay.
But just from, again, having time freed up on a
Right.
personal level, and then as at the yacht, at the beginning, mentioned unfortunately, because I love to be outside. And hopefully things get better and just fiscal limitations
Sure.
for myself is thinking of what I did and, reading statutes and like, dealing
Uh-huh.
with, as Doug said, I'm across from Liberty Mutual's general counsel, and this is public record, so I can say it because it's fine for what they were doing wrong. This was kind of not that there are gonna be areas where there's disagreement. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the nature of
Life.
and a small municipality. I mean, there are, and so the statutes, rules and that
Interest
experience
you.
really interested me to get out of the insurance realms, OARs, administrative rules of the ORSs, the statutes, and to tie that into something completely different. And I did work for the United States Senate. That was my first job after graduating from Willamette University in Salem. So 21 years old, I was dealing with the IRS and the DOD and Postal Service. And so I've had a background with state, federal, and then I grew up in a really small town of Kaiser with small men. Kind of a veteran community, Salem, the capital. And it wasn't even incorporated when I was a kid. And so it was extremely volunteer driven. And they did say very similar. They didn't have a city manager until later. It was mayor, like what used to be here, and I volunteered the time I was a teenager. And so that was instilled in me, and my dad always volunteered. And so it was just bred into me. And so it's just a way to give back, and it seemed like a good time and a good fit.
Yeah.
And for me, my next door neighbors are the epitome of community service.
Well, and I did.
I don't know your next door neighbors. Is that,
So, full disclosure, I did send them a list of questions that I had, because I felt that Finance Committee is not, it's not a thinking on your feet kind of committee. It's really something that requires some thought. I will admit I have some reservations. I think that there is some really exceptional skills that you bring to the table. Policy, interpreting, and it will be in a different realm. So, what are the rules around a URD, and can we renew a URD? Can we overlay a URD, urban renewal district? These are all statute-driven kinds of discussions, and they're different than insurance, but it's hard to read these laws and to interpret them. So I think that you would bring that to the table, which would be really wonderful and much valued. My concerns are around the financial forecasting. We have somebody that does an extraordinary job of that. We do have a professor of accounting also on the commission. So, it's not like you got to do that first day, but it would be something that skills that we need to see. You need to be able to look at how we're doing financially today, but more importantly, what does that mean for 10 years from now? So that's a skill I think you need to develop. And then the other area that is a skill that I think we can help you develop in is understanding our infrastructure, our water, wastewater, stormwater. The new one is still under discussion. You did well to find that out. But that's by far the biggest area of our capital expenditures, and the Finance Committee is responsible for developing the capital budget. We can help. A tour does wonders to see, what happens when how does that water get there when you turn the faucet, and where does it go when you flush the toilet?
I've already done that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you went on a tour?
Yeah.
Did you do it with David?
Oh,
Dave?
Thanks to.
with Julie.
Julie.
Oh, well, Dave is the best because he
Yeah.
does it, and I've never seen anyone get so excited about,
Yeah.
yeah, but he's
So,
fabulous.
so that kind of pumps and piping and all that stuff is, you know, where we spend the money. As much as people think that it's doing other stuff, the big bucks go there. So, you don't have to be an expert, but you do have to be familiar. So when you're in a discussion of how are we gonna meet our 25-year goals for water? How are we gonna raise money to move our water tank so it doesn't flood your home? You move it over here. How are we gonna come up with 10, 12, $15 million? Those are the questions that we're gonna have to ask you for.
Excuse me, just to alleviate your first concern about us only knowing the insurance code book. We did retire, but we still have contacts with the state.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, and I don't want to minimize that. I mean, I think that that's the ability to negotiate, navigate statute is incredibly important. And you'll bring something unique to our finance committee with that.
And even on the insurance side, we have consent orders on statutes and rules that were never enforced before it became a law.
Okay.
I was just gonna ask on 1 to 10, how much do you love numbers?
Yeah, that is one other thing is we don't expect you to, in the past, the Finance Commission has looked at some of our sort of leading indicators of how we're doing financially. These are more short to midterm goals, but around our transient rental taxes. Unfortunately, we did not get a change in that law, but how we would navigate that. But looking at, you know, how are we doing? What's the forecast? And what are the implications down the road for those? You know, reading the financial numbers, it's not terribly hard. It requires concentration.
People love numbers.
Yeah, well, you're doing great. You're good. All right. So, we probably need two. Is there?
We have a resolution from, I think that both of them are on.
Okay.
Mhm.
I was just gonna say that just listening to your interviews from the finance committee, you did bring up a lot of things that would be very applicable to the job, kind of like what he was saying. So your government experience, your grant writing experience, you working with audits, you know, all the RFPs, yeah.
Yeah.
So I wrote down a long list of everything you said in the interview, which can really apply, so.
Okay. So, I will read the, City of Yachats Resolution number 2025-265. Resolution appointing members to the Finance Committee. Whereas the June 12th, 2025 Finance Committee meeting interviewed the applicants listed below, and the members agreed to forward to City Council for consideration, and there's a typo there. There's something wrong. And they have agreed to accept appointment if offered. It needs to be cleared up. Whereas the City Council interviewed the candidates and discussed the appointments at the July 16th, 2025 meeting, and now therefore the City of Yachats resolves that the following appointments are made for the Finance Committee: Lisa Beck, seat C, expiring 12/28. Douglas Beck, seat D, expiring 12/26. Okay with that? We could swip. Please pass and adopted June 26, 2025. This resolution is effective upon adoption. Can I get a motion to approve this resolution?
Are we doing it together?
Yes, we'll do them together, if that's okay. Do you want to do them separately?
I don't know, I just thought it would be cleaner to do it separately since.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. It'd be more appropriate. Thank you. So let's hear approval for Lisa Beck for seat C. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution 2025-265? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And then can I get a motion to accept resolution 22526 for seat D for Douglas Beck?
So moved.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, you're on board. Thank you for your patience. This
The terms, there's a 4-year term, 2-year.
Long
moving through the meeting. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Thank you, Lee.
thank you.
Thanks for working with you guys.
I get it.
All right, a couple more orders of business, that I hope we can move through quickly. Well, one of them is gonna be hard. The Lincoln County Water Systems Alliance, for which we voted to participate in. Howard, do you want to summarize what our last discussion was with them? We had a discussion, we had real concerns about the way it had initially rolled out. And Bobby and I laid those out to this group. And they shared actually that they had some of the same concerns. But we also thought that a 50-year plan was appropriate. So we can summarize that a little bit, but then they're looking for a delegate to participate with them as they move forward in this probably rather long, arcane process of developing a 50-year water plans for the county.
Yes, and with that, the next steps with this will be bringing all of those delegates together, probably a member of each municipality's council and as along with their city manager, meeting and greeting each other from all of the different water districts and starting their relationship with everybody together versus just us individually meeting with this group that is going to each place, like just getting everybody into the same room and starting to talk about those relationships that can be built. I think a majority of us are seeing that the long-term strategy is working together. And how does that happen? It starts to happen by getting everybody in the same room and meeting and starting the conversation. So having somebody that would be interested in being that representative for Yachats with me to start these conversations and continue them along.
Anybody interested in participating in that group? It won't be frequent, I don't believe.
I don't think so.
It's every 2 months.
Don't all agree at once.
This is for the longevity and sustainability of Lincoln County water supply.
Nicole?
No. That'll be part of my new concern that I'm gonna bring up, so I feel like can I think about it?
Yes.
You just say yes and we'll work together on it.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And we can help and we can be substitute.
Your time commitment.
Okay. The next was that we have on here pavilion discussion. Let's keep it real short because we're all tired. So we heard from the architect from Sharon Design regarding his advice on the pavilion. So are we all familiar with what the issue is?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, and the bids are in the $285,000 area to bring it back to stabilize it essentially. Essentially lift the roof, put in new posts, redo the sidewalls.
And it would be bringing it up to code as well.
Yes, bringing it up to code.
And weathering it in.
Yes, so that it could, does that include heating it at all or just keeping it?
Just
in
weathering
the
it,
element?
yeah.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. But then if you're gonna do the work and you're going to spend a sizable amount of money, it's like it might be worthwhile to do it correctly once and make it as multi-use as possible. So that might mean removing some of the posts, which would then increase the cost, but then you're creating a building that's much more user friendly.
I don't know how much it would increase the cost. I mean, it would increase a little bit and, doing more design element to it, but as Chris mentioned earlier, we would have to add some shear wall to that. So it would remove the like 360-degree glass. So it might kind of balance with less tempered glass, more wall structure. So it could be probably fairly similar.
But what's our alternative? To just let it continue to rot?
To absolutely
I
not use it to tear it down.
agree. It's too bad this is happening, but I think it is a facility that can be used
Yes.
for a lot of things. I think the alternative is, and then we're spending more money because we're gonna take it down because it'll become a danger to some, I don't know. I mean, I just think it's.
The lines, they're the ones bolted, right?
Yeah, no, I have not talked to them directly, but I would like to talk to them and once we decide what we want to do with it, if they're willing to contribute at all to keep it up. But I will say it's a really sad thing to not be able to use that space this summer. It's such a hub of activity and the kids use it in the summertime, weddings, birthdays, receptions.
We had, one.
Well, we would.
That's our engineering estimate is correct.
It's the engineer design. We would get cost estimates from builders that would come out, but
Where would the money come from? I mean, what,
we budgeted for it
oh, we did, but.
in the
I don't know if we budgeted the full amount, we budgeted some, I believe.
we budgeted, so we had hoped to start in this last fiscal, when we were budgeting it, we had money in this last fiscal year for it, and we added the 160 to make it that 285, so we would have to look at where we're at with that. It might need to have a supplemental budget process to go with it. It is a real asset to the community. It's really expensive and it's really it's an unfortunate situation that we find ourselves in. I think that, the question of, well, what if we tore that down and just put it towards our other, but when whatever that happened with that cost estimate, and all of the work that's having to go into that, and why just not make this as multi-use as possible, like Nicole has made.
Even if we can only get one pickleball court out of it, that's one more than made zero. So, and it could be that in between space while.
I wouldn't look at it as an in-between. I would like to look at this as the first step of the 25-year plan.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think making it.
Where the other stuff's gonna be though.
Jesus.
No, say, come again?
I thought the new one was gonna be closer to the water treatment.
Yeah, but that could be
That's
20 years from now or never.
$4.5 million away.
the
The
plan.
guy that works with little Stevie said there's no way it should cost that much.
Well,
They'll get.
We will definitely get bids. This is just the engineering preliminary estimate. We would take the engineering plans and get, we'd have to go through our local bid process.
Yeah.
Put it out to bid and
Yeah.
let anybody and everybody bid on it.
Yeah.
and Advertise it on order buys and everything.
Mhm.
I think we have to do that. There's no way we can tear it down to nothing.
Or let it just sit there.
Right, so I think we have to put it out to bid.
It's a real shame to not have that extra space right now for the commons. We're already busting at the seams
Right.
here, and then to have that
And
shut
then
down.
Camp could be using it, everything, yeah.
Do we rent it out to people?
and
Mhm.
I'm
And I
looking
would
at it.
recommend re-engineering it so there's not so many posts to make it as multi-use as possible.
I
I know it might.
Then you have to have an
Right.
architect.
Volunteer that we've spent $44,000 on architects and engineering already.
Yeah, I would have, I wouldn't,
It'd be part of money out.
I wouldn't get an architect.
I'll do it for another 10,000.
Do you know anything about it? But okay, I'll work with you too.
Or to explore.
Total sidebar. Just read that pickleball is being supplanted in some places by a new game that requires a glass enclosure. And you hit the ball off the enclosure, so it's a squash derivative.
So we got the bones for the next game.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't think pickleball should be our reason for doing
No,
one thing or
Well,
another. Having another engineering project, that's enough to spend on engineering. I think we just need to get it sturdy and healthy and usable.
Are we putting? And pickleball is just one example of what you could do when there's no posts inside of a building.
Maybe you could do a
So,
lot of things when there are posts in
Yeah.
there.
Can they play pickleball around posts?
No.
They could play.
They say no.
Those balls that was a tether ball.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I had.
Yeah.
Anyhow, okay, so the question before us is, do we authorize moving forward with the repair of the, we don't have a resolution, but do we authorize the city manager to solicit bids for the restoration of the pavilion?
Yes.
I would make that motion.
Okay. So, do we have consensus?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so let's move forward, get some estimates. If there's a huge discrepancy one way or the other, we'll have to vote on it anyhow, most likely, because it's $285,000. But let's start moving forward, and we could maybe ask for, sometimes the contractors could just say, yeah, well, we need to be careful there.
Well, we just
Move
need to
the
get.
posts and get it done.
Two contract companies that we already have employed for the Little Log Church Museum and the library. And since we did take their bids, wouldn't they be people we want to ask?
It doesn't work that way. You gotta open it up. They may,
No.
well, yeah,
Of course, yeah.
Pretty busy right now.
The good thing is, bids will probably all be $160,000. Like the last consultant, they all bid 120, because that was.
yeah, yes, they do look it up. Okay, we still have a couple things to do, sorry. From the mayor and from the council.
Yeah, the staff.
And from the staff, so I will be quick. From the mayor, put my notes. Just as an update, I could have done this early in the meeting, but I've had a couple of meetings. I had a meeting with just, there's only 3 mayors, but we met with Dan Rayfield, the insurance commissioner. And he wanted to find out what our issues were. Not a lot of overlap. The one area he thought that seems to pique his interest was the reporting from vacation rental companies where they don't give us a per night number. And that's something that he was interested in. I met today with Walter Chuck, our commissioner. So just keep you up to date. Councilor Collins and I have finished our draft of the rules, city council rules. We'll get that. Their city staff has that, and they can fine tune it and double check some of the items in there. So hopefully that'll be on the agenda. And then finally, the fireworks working group. I'd like to propose a working group for fireworks that Councilor Carey would be the best candidate for, to give us some options and pricing. And also, I think it's imperative that we get the sentiment of the full city. And maybe even the sentiment of our visitors. Would you come to Yachats if there were no fireworks on 4th of July? But a big la-di-da parade.
Survey.
Okay, so
But you're gonna look at different options. It's not saying we won't have. Where it's not saying we won't have some type of fireworks. It's just, it's not gonna be the conventional fireworks. But there's choices.
Who said it doesn't have to be a fireworks, so some people think we should do something else. And some people feel like it should be drones or lasers, but some people are feeling like, so I think all those options would be looked at.
We looked at the lasers a while ago and they're.
well,
They're-
but I also talked to the mayor of Lincoln City. It should be worth speaking to them. They spent $70,000. They said that she said they contracted for 15 minutes for $70,000. It lasted 12.
Oh.
And you need to be in the right place to see it fully. But, and some people thought it was great, and some people were disappointed, but it'd be worth reaching out to Lincoln City. Well, they don't have a city manager right now. But it'd be worth reaching out to Lincoln City to see if there's any kind of feedback.
Right.
But then eliminate the illegal fireworks, which I think were the big problem this year. Those were.
Well, they are every year.
Yeah.
And they have been forever, and
Yeah.
they've been illegal forever.
Yes.
So, city manager has some thoughts on that, but We have to get the sheriff's by.
And they
It's
don't-
actually Oregon State Patrol by.
Yes, yeah.
And we did get a report from a citizen who was down there taking photos, and he said there was really only one family. So if there's something we can do to eliminate that, there was also complaints from Smelt Sand Beach that there was somebody there at 12 o'clock at night shooting off a whole barrage, so. We didn't hear it, but they did down there. They were not
I
happy.
know Jeanette Squires at the Sheeter and stuff too.
Yeah, there's.
Well, Driftwood Lane they have a lot of vacation rentals and that's where we get it.
That I think we can address
Yeah.
more rigorously, but I think the question is from the public is do we do this
As a community.
as a community? So, and I'll let you, if you two could kind of organize, the work group. It is short-lived. It'd have to be done in the next 2 months.
Then the Hessler is that, well, now some weeks have passed, but that since I started trying to put the survey together, she said it was about 3 months before any kind of commitment needed to be. So it wasn't as immediate as I thought, but
But it's not
yeah,
long.
but
I think-
3 months zoomed by.
We should try to get this survey fine-tuned and out as soon as possible, and we can start with that along with making calls to other communities who have experienced other types of, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
she's the good.
You are available.
Okay, all right, so we've got the bones of a work group and you'll flesh it out. Be sure to be ecumenical, get some people that really like fireworks. Okay, from the council, Barry, you had a report.
Yeah, this is pretty short. Okay, I'm the city's representative on the Cascades West Area Commission on Transportation. Basically, it's just an advisory body to ODOT on what things can be done or needed to be done transportation wise. Their unfortunate acronym is pronounced quacked. But anyway, the change this time around is that well, the committee was managed by the Cascades West organization. And but I believe that that the ODOT basically paid them to manage it. With ODOT's lack of funding, they can't do that anymore. So basically ODOT fired or terminated the responsibility of Cascades West. The council of governments, not the committee. And ODOT will be supervising the committee. I reached out and asked, is anything gonna change? Like, you're still gonna have representatives from each municipality? The answer was yes, and we're still gonna have meetings, and we're all gonna talk about things we can't afford to do, just like this.
Perfect.
So that's.
That's a sad.
So there's a change, but maybe not a change.
I believe it's mandated by statute, isn't it, that they have these council? A lot of that. Okay, well, thank you. And you had something?
Yes, I have two things. So as a follow-up from last month with, I forgot his name, but talking about the climate change and the youth. I reached out to a couple people, one person from Hatfield Marine Science Center that does work with interns in the high school program. And then she also mentioned that would be really easy to maybe approach the high schools in that capacity. So after talking a little bit with Mary Ellen, I started thinking about like how would something like what he presented could be implemented here. And it was like imagining a high school student who wanted to be an intern who was interested in government and city government and having them work on a project with the local kids with climate concerns. And so I can imagine this person starting, learning how the government works, starting to form the group of kids who are concerned, and then they maybe work on a project or two throughout the year. So they could be doing an art project, they can be working with the chamber, they could be coming up with an event on their own. And then maybe at the end of this internship, the high school student would then present to council their ideas of how city government can help support the changing climate and the children. So it sounds like there's some opportunities to get that started, probably through Hatfield might be the easiest. So,
Yeah, I like that.
so there's that.
Okay,
And then the second thing, I guess, is a concern. So looking at our water year to date and how low it is, and then taking into consideration that Lincoln County has announced a drought. And then I think about in the past, we've had to do water conservation, but now we have this contract with SWLC PUD. Like, do we as a city need to take the drought a little bit more seriously and ask people to conserve? Like, I don't know how that looks now that we have a contract for water.
Well, also we changed the
Emergency.
emergency levels.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and base them on our creek flow.
yes.
So,
Because nothing.
this is what the mayor's newsletter this month is about. We have enough water until we don't.
Yeah.
And so when the city manager via her employees says we reach that point, the first stage is conservation. And so we don't need to do it until we reach that point. Once we reach that point, then we do need to do it. And it's a pretty mild set of conservation. And I don't know where we're at in terms of flow. It didn't report. And we haven't heard from Rick to know, are we a week out or are we 2 weeks out?
Yeah. Yeah, the creek flow, I don't think is in here. It just has rain to date.
Yeah. And we haven't even invoked our auxiliary supply yet.
Mm-mm.
So we're probably, I believe it would be premature to talk about it.
When I checked in with Rick last week, we were still in good shape.
Okay.
But he and I are gonna be, we were gonna on a weekly check-in on that specifically, and now we're gonna move to a daily check-in, and we have our agreement set to start in August with South Bend.
And I'm just curious, since now there's a Lincoln County-wide drought announcement, like how does that, I don't know how it works with all the water districts. Because it's like, from what I understand, I read the original declaration, then I couldn't find it, so I'm looking at the Lincoln Chronicles review. But it's like, it doesn't do a lot, it just asks people to conserve water. So.
I think Tom always said, you asked for too soon, and we've got water we've already treated, and then we can't sell it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And so I suggest we just follow what we established.
Yeah.
And if we needed to kick in that agreement earlier, could we?
Sure, we could.
Okay.
Take our $10,000, whenever they can get it.
Yeah. They just completed their plan, and it looks like they're in good shape all throughout the year, so. Yeah.
So, no, it's a conundrum. I mean, you should always save water just as good citizen of the planet, but in terms of water, we sell water. We're in the business of selling water. So.
Sir Collins, did you have something?
I'm just gonna say that newsletter, the city newsletter, can just put in some, encouragement without reference to the code.
Agreed.
Just saying, hey.
I haven't noticed. We haven't had any rain. That looks fun.
It's tricky though. The flow may be independent. I mean, I don't know this. I'm making this up. Let me be clear. But because our water comes from a healthy, rich coniferous forest, and we've had significant amounts of cloud cover, the evaporation is really low, and spruce trees, I went to a seminar once, and spruce trees get up to 30% of their water from mist. So, that's why I'm saying, let's go with what the flow rate is out of the streams. Because we just, it gets so hydrologically complicated, we don't know.
I do have one more brief business matter to bring up.
Oh, we didn't.
We have the resolution 2025-266, which is a resolution approving the application submission for the Transportation and Growth Management Plan, also known as the TSP grant. And this is something that our planning department, Public Works Department are working together with a DLCD to put this to ODOT on behalf of the city of Yachats. And a copy of this resolution is put in front of you. It was a last minute addition to our agenda today. And I do have an edit that needs to be made to it that will get made. And with this, it is a requirement to apply for this grant. I mentioned it earlier on in our conversation about traffic calming measures. It will be for the purpose of updating our village circulation plan, which will include sidewalks and different other pedestrian and vehicle safety measures.
Plan from 1997.
Yeah, 1997 or 1999, one of the.
Oh, like-
Yeah.
It was a good year.
Yeah, it's a grant to be able to work with a consultant.
If we don't get the grant, what's the fee for this? Just not do it?
We would probably just not do it. Yeah.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve resolution city 2025-266, approving an application submission for the Transportation and Growth Management Program grant? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
You're gonna send, Kim, you gonna send me the electronic versions? Because I might be a little slow on signing. You just right away, I'll sign it.
Yeah, if you could sign it right away, that'd be great.
That's the. Typos.
Oh, no, yeah, we've got to correct the typos. So, yeah, we got to correct the typos.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
When do you, I do this Friday?
Yes.
Can you send that to Craig to sign? We do need that one.
I send him this. God, I gotta get home. My dog is probably, I don't know.
Oh, yes, thank you. I adjourn the meeting, city council meeting in the city of Yachats of July 16th.